Hello, quick little introduction, an editor's kind of intro to the video you're about to watch. As you can see via the timestamp, it's fairly long. That's because we cover the core rules for magic and all of the spell laws. Obviously, to make this easier for you to digest, there are timestamps so you can just skip ahead to all of the different sections that you want. Although I think we cover loads of interesting and different themes over all the video. Check it all out. Let us know what you think. Like and subscribe. Thanks very much. Hello, welcome to the Square-Based Show, your home for news, reviews, and information. In today's video, we're going to be deep diving because we're going to be talking about everything to do with the magic phase in the old world. Let's go. Oh,
that's right, Rob. We're deep diving. We're deep diving, Rob. No, that didn't happen. Okay, no, I did not mean this to happen. The second part.
Okay.
We're done now. We're
okay.
done.
Well, everyone's ears. That's ruined it. So.
I don't think it. Well, the double Waaagh was not intentional. Much like my explanation of how combat res worked last show, in which I basically my mind blanked and I panicked. Exact same thing with the Waaagh just now. So.
Someone in the YouTube comments was like, "Can you redo that? Because I do not know what happened."
I did say, Rob, I kind of need to hop in there and maybe edit my break check explanation because I definitely had a mini stroke.
I understood it.
Yeah, but like I listened back to it, I'm like, wow, I definitely said that you fail if you need a 10 and you roll a 10, you fail. I was like, that's not true. So yeah, folks, maybe reach out to. Not me for how comic the general oomph of the point was salient, but
we're gonna do some overview videos. We're gonna do some overview videos on that because like I think a lot of the stuff and there is a lot of content on several of these subjects already. We're going to be doing magic today, and there is already content out there. And I think whenever you're doing something that is whenever you're doing something that's live, like obviously no opportunity to edit because obviously like I've been making recorded videos. I was just editing last night, and then I was like, no, Rob, prayers are not magic. I was like, the three spells you can cast, and I'm like, no, the 3 prayers you can incant. It's super easy to do multiple times, even when you're doing shoots. So it's fine. It's not a problem.
But I mean, I'm just gonna tell everyone this right now. Like when you guys see the Square-Based Show. It's unedited, baby. This is just us. You thinking to yourselves, did they do that in one take? The answer is yes. Okay. Yes, we did. Right, double Waaagh, one take, baby.
Okay, I'd love to deep dive. Hilarious, where a Waaagh comes from. I don't want to deep dive that right now. I've got so much to say about the term of Waaagh, but that's for another show. Don't need to hear that. I'd also like to start off with just diving straight into the info. I'm going to just check with Val, see if it's okay, because there is a lot to cover, and I'd like to get straight to the goss. But I need to start off with saying I'm annoyed. Val Heffelfinger, I'm annoyed.
You're annoyed.
I'm furious.
Is my full fake name?
Yeah.
This is serious.
I am livid, is what I am.
My not real mother used to say that when I was in trouble. What's up, Rob?
Val Heffelfinger, come downstairs. Listen, if you are on the Square-Based YouTube or even the podcast, right, or even in the Twitch chat right now, our videos are rocking. They're hitting like 11, 12,000 views. I'm impressed. I'm amazed.
Why get out of bed?
I'm deeply thankful. I couldn't be more thankful, but I'm not thankful for the fact that we've got less subscribers than we have views. Sort that out right now. Come on. Bullshit. Like, absolutely bullshit. Like, I might stop making videos. Like, fuck you. Like, if you're going to watch them...
Rob.
If you're going to watch them and then not subscribe, what is the point? What is the point?
Let's not make threats we can't keep. You stop making videos.
When I go
to the local work ethic will not allow that.
When I go to the local influencer meetup, which is just literally my house, and I have to talk about the low subscriber count compared to video view.
Suffering from low subscribers count these days, guys. I'm getting ratioed all over the place. It's tough.
Get it sorted. That's why I'm mad, and I think that's a fair. My background's red. I'm furious.
Always furious. My background is fish because I demanded it, and then it happened. Then it happened.
Yeah,
beautiful. Anyway. It's fantastic. I have one thing actually, very very quickly because I felt terrible about it, which was yesterday we shouted out content. Last episode we shouted out content, and I completely forgot that I was on Chuck's podcast literally like 2 days before. And so that's Strength Hammer. And I had a nice chat on Strength Hammer and just wanted to say, Chuck, I'm so sorry. And it was a great chat. That's it.
Go check that out. Go check that out. Okay, so let's just dive straight in. I know this is a bit. This is a bit.
The sound effect again?
No, please God, no. God, no. Right. Okay.
You got it.
We're talking about magic phase. Now, the reason that I said to Val, please can we do magic? Please can we do magic? And he was like, yeah, I'll do. Like I'll do anything. He said, which I was like, that's very cool. And the reason I personally want to do magic, and we're going to talk about the basics, and we're going to talk about each spell in the core rulebook, is because whenever I've been doing my overview videos, I've been talking a lot about economies of scale. Oh. And there's going to be a couple of different strategies that emerge because of magic. And these are terms that really work in Age of Sigmar. They work in 40k. They worked in Warhammer Fantasy Battle as well, which I played prodigiously, competitively at the end of the edition. For several years before the end of the edition. So there's a couple of things to say here. Like economies of scale is where you take something that's in this term we're effectively talking about something that does a buff or does a hex, I guess. But economy of scale is about a buff. And then I apply it to the most of something. For instance, if I can add +1 strength to a unit and they have 20 attacks from the front rank versus 10 attacks from the front rank, it's much better, okay?
Sure.
So I've been talking about that a lot in the overview videos, and I wanted to really make sure we kind of covered that here. Similarly with hexes, you take the strongest enemy unit effectively and you debuff it, then you're reducing their effectiveness. There's also loads to say about like range damage and other stuff in here, but I wanted to just pop that off with there's a real need to look at this from the perspective of army building, like globally, which I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Heck yeah. I think that's also why I really wanted to do a little bit more context around core rules, because I think that's important for looking for those things that are really sort of keystone mechanics. What are the things that are, what are we able to manipulate using magic and take advantage of that isn't just straight damage or whatever, but say gives you an initiative kick. Or as I was attempting to explain in the previous video, because combat resolution does not actually modify leadership, it modifies the dice roll. What do we have out there to debuff leadership? Because that'll really help in breaking your opponents. So like there's sort of key elements that, I'm sure magic and also magic items, when we get to it later, can really give you a help for.
Also, there's an efficiency when we talk about like magic missiles and vortexes in like the sheer, like, you spend some points on an artillery piece versus a magician. Like that magician may genuinely just pump out more output like over the course of the battle. And then the final piece is fun. Absolute fun. Like we're playing, we love magic. Magic's cool.
Guys, it's magic. It's magic. It's magic. You ever heard of Harry Potter? That's fun. It's magic, guys.
I was actually thinking about Harry Potter this morning. I was thinking if magicians
do.
And I was like, if magicians were real, then I would so be like a classless scrub that would be like they would lord over us like Tories in such a unbasked way. That would be heartbreaking.
I was thinking, like, what do you mean? Like, you just be like using magic to like nick a few coppas, just like grab,
They just be like, "You boy,"
with the wand.
"You boy," we've captured all that. Anyway, right? So
yeah, like the X-Men universe and Harry Potter and all that. Yeah, no, they wouldn't be some sort of magnanimous like force for good. They would immediately just be overwhelming powers of evil, and tyranny, like clearly, like Magneto would win immediately, no doubt.
It's like,
oh wait, we can just kill everybody? No shit.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they missed a trick there. So there's a lot. I think,
the very dark. You can just click like page down and then boom, we wouldn't get the scroll.
Oh, okay, even better. All right, we're gonna do a magic deep dive.
It's deep dive time.
Deep dive. No. Every time you say sound effect, I need the people watching either listen to the podcast or watching at home just scream at their TV. No,
please not again.
Okay, all right. So we're doing Magic core rules and the laws of Magic. Shout out to Tom for helping put these graphics together, but also Val for doing his homework and getting all this as a deck. So thank you so much. Okay,
Big deck. You
right,
know, I got big decks.
big
and
decks.
bring them.
All right, so I think the easiest thing to shout out straight away if you are new to the old world is
Most redundant table ever. Here we go.
Well, yeah.
I was making this. I'm like,
I'm
why
not
am I
sure
making
if this wasn't the most redundant table, but like this.
Hey, there used to be three. There were 3 points originally. One of them is magic math. And I took it out because I wasn't sure the magic math was right. But then I found out it was right. Now it's back in, but I didn't put it back in. So there's actually 3 elements to what we're talking about today. And you didn't even recap what we're talking about today. We're talking core rules, followed by a sensuous stroll through the details of lores of magic found in the BTB.
Okay, so I doubt that there's anyone watching this who is new to the old world, but in case you are, you have wizards in the game. Those wizards have different magical levels. Normally, it's pretty standardized through all of the armies. There's a level 1 you can upgrade to a level 2, and there's a level 3 that you can upgrade to a level 4. The level 4 normally has like better toughness, more wounds, access to more magic points, etc. And this is resplendent through all of the characters. I haven't really found a good way of kind of describing this yet, but you basically have a primary and a secondary of each type of character and hero. Yeah. There are some unique cases, like Demon Princes go up to level 4. A Tree Man, I think, starts out at level 2, might be a level 3, something like that. I can't remember. So that's the basics. And then those wizard levels correspond to a couple of different things. Most importantly, as Val is pointed out here, that they get whatever their wizard level. It's very simple. Is a 3. You add 3 to the casting and dispel when you roll, and then they also know that many spells. Very simple.
And there's actually a third thing that I could have added to this, which would have been actually pretty good, which is levels 1 and 2 have an 18-inch dispel bubble range.
Yes, they do.
They can dispel a wizard casting something with an 18, and a level 3 and 4 has a 24-inch range. But that, I think, would be the distinctions between all of them.
And I think that's actually really important because I think right now there's a big conversation between like, oh, why do you want one buffed out level 4? I'm actually going to take a ton of level 1s and just spam as many spells as possible. There's a great conversation around that. There's some good mathonomics.
That's why we got some magic math.
Magic math, baby. I like magic math. That's fun. So that's the basics. Have we got spell generation in here?
Keep scrolling, homie.
Okay, perfect. So what a wizard knows, so they on their character card, it will say what spell laws they have access to. Each spell law has got 6 spells and then a signature spell. At the start of the battle, what you would do if you would take the wizard level of your wizard, let's say wizard level 3, I would roll 3 dice. They would correspond to the spells in a spell law 1 to 6. And let's say I rolled a 1, 2, and 3, then I would choose spells 1, 2, and 3. I can at any point decide to give up one of those spells and then take
before the game.
Oh yes, it's before the game, and actually that's a really interesting point. It's before each game.
Yeah, it's before. So okay, so let's back up on here. So yeah, every wizard does know. They'll have a list of lores of magic that they can pull from. And very key here is that actually happens at the muster level. So that means that when you're writing your army list, you actually have to declare, okay, this person can choose from these 3 lores. I'm going with illusion, So that's what's established, like even before the game. Then once you're at the table, before deployment is when you're going to generate these spells. The key takeaway here too is that this is actually done at the sort of like army list writing stage is when you choose which lore that they take. And then yeah.
Great clarification. And actually, it's really exciting that you generate the spells at the start because there's like a lot of conversations around sideboards and other stuff for other game systems. But effectively, this means that you get to, make more optimal choices in the matchup that you're in, which is a nice bit. Like that, honestly, that's more engaging and gives you some opportunities. So it's actually quite cool. A little bit disappointing if you don't get the spell that you want.
So that's it. So if we go to the next slide.
Okay. So you randomly generate spells before armies are deployed, and the process I said about earlier. So you roll your dice. The only thing that we need to add on to what I was talking about earlier is if you roll any doubles or triples. Basically, if you roll any duplicates, then they allow you to just pick a spell. Versus having to have the same spell twice, and you can't have the same spell twice. You can't cast the same spell. Oh, okay.
Incorrect. So actually, that is a nice little nuance from previous editions. It actually makes it harder to guarantee that you're going to get a spell. So previously, you used to have six spells that you could randomly generate, but each wizard could only get it once. So you used to be able to sort of game that to get the right spells on the right wizards. Now, each wizard generates their spells independently, and individual spells may be duplicated within your army, but no single wizard could know the same spell twice.
Sorry, that's what I said. I meant that you couldn't, like, you weren't forced to have a spell twice that you can't cast twice. So yes, you can have the same spell multiple times across wizards, but you can't have the same spell twice on a wizard. Is what I was
on
trying
a
to,
wizard. That's right.
On
Yeah,
a wizard.
so like previously, it was just the signature spell was something that you could have.
So yeah, like Val was saying, obviously you can have the same spell multiple times across your army, and like you've said, that is a significant. Can we take a moment to talk about that? What are your thoughts on that? Because this means, because one of the things you hate I hate the word, you hate the concept, spam.
No, I don't hate it. I think it, and also like there's varying degrees of spam. So having the same spell 3 times is a lot different than having the same spell 12 times. You know what I mean? There's varying shades of spam. Spam. So yeah, no, I think it's actually kind of it's cool. But because it's random, and you know, if you're not taking a level 4, you know, like if you're taking, for example, a level 2, you got a 1 in 3 chance of getting a particular spell in a lore. So it's nothing that you can really lean on or depend on. But there'll be times where it's kind of neat to have like a double up on something, have a little redundancy if you have multiple casters, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't have anything against it. One thing I maybe this is just the 8th edition in me, is just that I do miss the ability to have some control beyond just signature spells over what a wizard definitely knows. I think what this method of selecting spells does is really raises the value of signature spells, because signature spells are the thing that you can count on.
Yeah, so that's the thing we haven't talked about yet. So when you do roll on the chart, you get your spells, whatever the results are. You can always drop one of those spells for a signature spell. So there are actually 7 spells in each spell lore. Also, most of the spell laws for an army book, let's say playing Wood Elves, you can decide to drop one of your spells for one of those spells as well, instead of a signature spell. I'm pretty certain. Is the process.
Yeah, so your faction will have for their own like core, like their own sort of lore of magic.
Not Empire.
Not Empire. They'll have another lore or 2, like the Orcs and Goblins have a Goblin and an Orc one, where they'll have access to another 1 or 2, maybe 3 signature spell options that you can pick. But you only get to pick one of them, so you can't. So you only, as far as I know, are able to pick either the signature spell of the lore itself, or your factions, or one of your.
You don't get to. You're absolutely right. Like it's kind of an either-or situation. So that's quite interesting as well, because that so then effectively what we're saying is plotting out what's going to happen before you turn up is going to be kind of interesting, and that's something you'll be conscious of. Level 4s are going to get a lot more of the spells that they want, obviously, and level 1s, level 2s probably are going to be floating around trying to get those signature spells in most cases. Okay, so the types of spells that there are, and this is cool. We've got
less redundant chart here, guys. This is much less redundant. You'll enjoy this one.
Yes, so we've got different types of spells. We've got enhancement spells, hex spells, conveyance spells. So these are some spell categories. There's a couple that we don't have assailment spells on here.
This on the next slide.
Oh, nice, lovely.
Yeah, this is
Yeah, magic missile, magical vortex, and assailment. There we go. So perfect. And then, do you want to talk this through, Val? Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to definitely call out on this, especially under the conditions. So one thing that really needs to be considered, again, especially if you're an old returning player, specifically 8th edition, that's my experience, is just that in general, you cannot use a spell on a unit that is in combat, or you can't cast it if you're in combat. You can't dispel if you're in combat. So the combat, being in combat, with the exception of assailment spells, which are at the bottom of this list, so is a big restriction on magic, and is actually going to be a great way to either protect yourself from magic or shut someone's ability to dispel and stuff like that, is getting casters locked up, getting their units locked up. But moving on to enchantments, so for this one, you don't need line of sight. They always need to fall in the front arc. But you don't need line of sight. So if models are blocking you, that's fine. as long as they're in that 90-degree arc in front of the caster. The one thing here that's also interesting is often you'll get buff and debuff spells. And on debuff spells like hexes, it used to be that you could actually use certain hexes to like kill units because you could take like a toughness or strength characteristic to 0, which would actually kill your model. But in this, it's actually limited, so you can't go above 10 and you can't go below 1 with any of the buffs or penalties that you can cast.
There's an interesting thing also, like with enchantments as well, and hexes as well. Some of them will dictate when they end, and some won't. And that's pretty interesting. There's a really interesting nuance there. So actually, each spell kind of needs to be taken on its own merit, because even though they fit inside of these, these types, there is going to be some nuance in those different spells, which I think is going to cause initially you'll be like, oh no, you can't put two enchantments on those, and they'll be like, oh no, I can. Like, there you go. You're like, oh, I didn't know. So I think that's going to catch some people out early, because some people can and some people can't. So I think that's kind of interesting.
So it's interesting looking at the rule for spell duration, which I didn't include because basically the language around spell duration is generally suggesting that it's always spelled out on the spell. So we're going to see that when we go through the Lores of Magic, how true this is.
It is.
It is always spelled. Okay, because basically.
Yeah, and then if it's not, it's continuous.
So there's remains in play, which we'll get to, and then but generally speaking, it'll end at the beginning of the casting player's next start of turn subphase. The other interesting thing about enchantments and hexes is they happen in the conjuration subphase of the strategy phase,
which is all before charges.
Which is all before charges, so that's super key. But it's also after you've done some other things like any like abilities on like a character, like something that you might like, for example, probably like an Empire priest doing one of their prayers would happen before spells. That sort of thing. So it's interesting where these things fall. Conveyance as well is, for example, in the remaining move subphase, and that's going to be after charges are declared, after compulsory movement is done. So your random movement and your fleeing and all that kind of stuff. So it's sort of in the it's sort of in your sort of cleanup period. But where exactly in the phase things are triggered is sort of an interesting thing to keep an eye on too when we're looking at the effect of a particular spell.
And some of it's very good. Like, I much prefer Conveyance being where it is, because this means any kind of movement effects that you are getting from Conveyance is it's really beneficial to shooting. Like a teleport, as an example, is very beneficial to shooting, and it's very beneficial to like some characters, some good teleports and some other stuff. But it generally isn't going to give you like the opportunity to do a long bomb charge because you passed that phase already. So that's cool. I like that, and it really will change up I think Conveyance is going to change up board states a lot more. Like, I think there's going to be some very fair early assessments of a game where it's 2 linear lines moving forward, but there's enough Conveyance spells and also ambushing from Beastmen and other of the like, where I think that we're going to see that actually not be that true. So you're going to be really conscious of those teleports and giving up. There's lots to talk about. Anyway.
One more point on enchantment and hexes. So these are basically buffing spells and debuff spells essentially. One interesting call out too that they have somewhere in the rules. By the way, these conditions are taken from all over the book. So some of these conditions you will find when you read the magic phase, or not the magic phase, but the magic sort of summary at the start. It's actually before the core rules. Some of them are from what they call oddball stuff at the end of each phase summary. Some of them are actually in the magic lores preamble because they repeat the same rules twice, but sort of different.
Yes.
So you have to, when you're reading this book, although the rules are great, I have to say, I really love the rules. They feel like they hold together really nice. They're all over the effing place. Yeah. So this is a great little summary because this is actually, and if we find any more, I'll come back and update this because it's a good little handy sheet. But anyway, one thing I was going to point out is that bonuses from different enchantments are cumulative, but cannot take any characteristic above 10 or below 1. So that's important because you might have 2 different enchantments that affect the same stat line, for example. So you can't, for example, cast the same spell twice on a unit, but you could cast 2 similar spells on a unit and have double the impact on a given stat. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then conveyance, that's another important one, is if you do have a command spell multiple times in your army, you can only ever use it once on a given unit. But that's also the same conveyance spell. So again, if you have multiple different conveyance spells, you could cast them both on the same unit.
Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff that is all over the place. We'll get to talk about my favorite one, Magical Vortex, in a minute. So then the 3 other types of like spell category, if you will, we got Magical Missile, Magical Vortex, and Assailment, which is Magic Missile is just effectively a shooting attack. I think you're going to see many a Magic Missile in the game. Magical Vortexes are very interesting. They are most often a 3-inch template, which I think Val is furious about because he has a 5-inch magical vortex from Storm of Magic. They are cool. There
are some 5-inch ones, but
we've actually made. I'll showcase this on another show, but we've actually made a magical vortex template, like as a base that we could print out, and then you can stick models on top of it. Effectively, I love that idea because I love playing like Warriors of Chaos, and I'm going to put like some sort of like demon spell on top of it, or just a demon, and then I'm playing Wood Elves, and it could be like a Tree Man kit that I like kit bash a lot, and there's loads of options. It's very fun.
If SDS hasn't thought of this yet, but just because one of the coolest things, like just as an outsider to me about AOS, is that they have endless spells that are models that represent spells on the table. That's kind of what vortexes are, maybe?
They are exactly what vortexes are.
Okay, so it would be really cool if like there were actual models for this, and wouldn't you know, old Tomo is sculpting up some neat vortices. Maybe.
Vortices. Well, I like it for 2 reasons. One, we could potentially provide a bunch of like 3D files or 3D prints for people, but also the kit bashing potential is like you build whichever army you're going to build, and then you kit bash your own kind of like magical vortex is actually thematically pretty awesome, and I love that. So actually, it's one of my faves. There is a little bit of a problem with magical vortexes, and if someone has solved this for me, I'd love to know, because the way you get rid of a magical vortex is effectively a template that's bombing around, and it remains in play. Now, the way you get rid of a remains in play spell is at the start of basically the start of the next turn. That's when you get rid of it, okay? Which, in my opinion, would be the subsequent turn. I think that's the right way to describe it.
I have the exact wording on remains in play. Maybe the next slide. So if you go down, we could see.
Okay, perfect.
Are vortices termed remains in play usually on them?
Yeah. So you may attempt to spell remains in play spell during the conjuration subphase of any of your subsequent turns. Perfect. Okay. You may attempt to. So then you do not need. So then the one that's not here. Perfect. The one that isn't on here is what happens if I roll a 6 to cast a remain in place spell, or more important, a vortice spell. Well, then it says I need to. Then it's done very powerfully. The way it's described is it's done really powerfully, and then you get rid of it in the subsequent next turn. And I'm like, isn't that the same?
I think for some reason they thought that it would be confusing. Like if something's cast with it's not irresistible force, but it's whatever it is now. We'll see it in a second. I guess they thought that people might think that it was like permanently in there, because essentially when you're dispelling a remains in play spell, normally when you dispel, you have to beat whatever the caster rolled.
Yes.
Right? When you're dispelling a remains in play spell in a subsequent turn in your next conjuration subphase, you don't actually have to beat what the original roll was. You just have to beat whatever the casting value of the spell is.
Yes.
So if it goes off on a 7, you got to roll a 7. One interesting thing is that you don't have to be in range of the vortex. You have to be in range of the guy who casted it. So that's kind of cool. I thought that was a neat condition on how you dispel these things. But yeah, so it's it's actually, and also because I guess I assume you can only make one dispel attempt each time.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So you don't get infinite shots at it if you have a bunch of casters, but yeah, you have to be in range of the guy who cast it or lady mage, and
or tree.
and you only have or tree or entity. No need to gender this. And and yeah, and then you can generally get rid of them. In the old days, getting rid of remains in play was real sticky. It was really annoying. Remains in play, I feel like, aren't going to really stick around too long, as long as you have. So unless, for example, you're surrounded by vortices because you're playing Rob and he's decided to put as many vortexes on the table as possible.
Already my number one plan.
Can we pop back up to the
sure.
previous one?
Yeah, sure. The way the vortexes work is it's a template. It will say, and we'll talk about this when we actually look at the spells later, it will say a range at which you place it. Now, there's also another piece of tech to the vortexes, which I think should be discussed, because very much like when a unit is fleeing and it pops through another unit, in some cases. Vortexes, if moved in the right way, because they have random movement, but random movement determined, the amount is random, but the movement is determined by the mover, by the caster, sorry. And so what happens is you can't leave a template on top of a unit. Therefore, it pops through. And if you angle it in the right way, you could potentially, if you imagine if it was on the side of a line of different units, you pop it through, you pop it into the first one, it's like, okay, it's got pop, okay, it's next one. So you could actually hit multiple units in a row and the vortexes aren't overly powerful, so I wouldn't be there's
some cool ones.
There's some cool ones, and so there's a real opportunity. Some of them create dangerous terrain as well, but like Val says, being able to get rid of them is fairly simple, so I don't think it's like as problematic as it could be. But I think you legitimately, with several casters, could cause a board state headache, because just one unbind or dispel going wrong, and you've already caused.
Now you got a bit of a logjam.
Yeah, you got a bit of a logjam, and obviously movement is so crucial in this game, maybe more crucial than any other, because it's so linear, or it's so not predetermined, but it's a problem. Anyway, magical vortex is going to be very strong.
You don't have movement is you're not very free to move.
Yes,
you have to your movement is very restrained by your movement characteristic, how wheels work, that kind of thing. We're used to maybe skirmish games where if you want to move 6 inches this way, you can go 6 inches that way. In this game, the turn is measured. So yeah, getting out of the way of stuff or trying to avoid something can actually be a pretty significant issue, and so vortices could be a big thing. Something I really want to call out on these is that because they're shooting attacks, if you marched, you cannot use them. So that's magic missile and magical vortex. Something very important to think about there is so if a wizard is in a unit and they do march or they move fast, they won't be able to rat-a-tat-tat with their vortex or magic missile. The other thing cool about a vortex is that it doesn't require line of sight to place.
Yes.
So again, if you're screened or whatever, and you got 18 inches to place your template, you can't place the template on anywhere where it's touching a model or a unit. So you have to place it free of that. And then it moves from there. But you don't actually have to be able to see that spot. Unlike a magic missile, you have to have a clear line of sight to whatever it is you're shooting at.
Yeah, so the way I'm going to see it with spell generation, I think, often, is I'm going to see magic missile as something I always want, and magical vortex as something I want to cause a problem. Like magical missile is something I want to go off to keep adding onto that damage, but magical vortex is something like I want to just continuously cause a headache with. So I feel like early on in the game, obviously I've got to put a lot of this on the table, but I feel like I'm going to often be picking those because they're going to just be consistently disrupting the enemy. So I think that's kind of like a fun little element. I really do. I also think that, just like you've said, because you need line of sight and all of these can't be done in combat, I feel often that you're going to see wizards not inside the big bricks. You're not going to see cat
and mouse with the wizards for sure.
Yeah, probably inside skirmish units because they already get a natural -1 to be shot at. Feels like also I don't. Did you put and chariots? Is this on the slide?
These aren't on the slides because those are formation and unit types. But
yeah, so
but I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, chariots and skirmish units, because they have 360-degree line of sight for shooting. So I mentioned this in one of the overviews.
That's actually arc of sight, Rob.
Sorry, arc of sight. Apologize. 360-degree arc of sight. And so, I mean, a skirmish unit makes more sense because you're burying it inside of a unit, so it can't be targeted like a chariot could. But I think, wizards inside blocks are going to be very interesting because probably they're going to be wanting to like buff the unit, like self. I'm thinking when we get to battle magic, I'll talk about that. But yeah, anyway.
I mean, even beyond that, one thing is that we haven't talked about, and maybe we'll do another interesting rules from the BTB maybe next week. Is that characters in general, if they're within 3 inches of a unit of their own type, cannot be targeted unless they are the closest model. So I don't necessarily see that you need to have a wizard inside of a unit. You could have a wizard behind a unit if they're not doing magic missiles. You could have a wizard tucked in between 2 units so that they're kind of protected. But keeping your wizards sort of, you can keep them from being shot at and not actually in a unit as well. So there might be ways around that, but that sort of popped out to me as like, do you even need to have them in a unit? Because they are fairly well protected from shooting just as long as they're near something. They don't even have to be in it. And that also protects them if someone marches, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
I'd also like to shout out that Magic Missile is just not going to suffer any minuses to hit. Like no long range, no I'm a skirmisher, none of that stuff. So Fireball's still a fireball, pure and simple. And I think I find that very attractive, like numbers-wise.
Something about Magic Missiles is they are probably the most efficient shooting in the game, assuming you can get them off. And we're going to look at math in just a few slides. But Magic Missiles are incredibly efficient shooting compared to, we looked at templates the other day. Again, templates, dropping on a big unit, might think that you're going to hit a bunch of stuff, but really you're not. Ballista skill shooting is often going to have a negative to hit, either a -1 or -2. And most things aren't hitting on better than a 3-up. So, in this game, you also get a -1 penalty if you're over half range. So ballistic skill based shooting often, and there's a lot of armies that ignore those rules, but often is going to be very inefficient. So magic missiles, on the other hand, they hit automatically and generate a lot of shots often comparatively. Again, you can only fire in the front rank most of the time. So yeah, I think for shooting, I think magic missiles are definitely a great option. They are quite limited by range, though, and we'll see that when we get through, when you start going through them.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. I think we've covered remains in play.
One sec here. Is there anything in here that we didn't touch on? No, I think that's good.
I think we're good. I think we're good on this. So magic core rules. Casting spells can only attempt to cast each of their spells once per turn. So you've got 4 spells. Obviously, you can only attempt to cast it once. Wizards that are fleeing cannot cast spells. That's pretty important because now we've got fleeing and in combat, both issues for casting spells. So I think there are ways to shut this down. Unless stated otherwise, wizards that are engaged in combat can only cast assailments or ranged self spells. Now, ranged self is like a very clever little trick that they've stuck on a lot of different spells, so you can actually still cast them in combat. But
interesting.
Yeah, so like there's a few enhancements that are ranged self. So you're like, cool. Well, it's ranged self, so I can do it in combat because like it says that, so that's good. So like again, battle magic will be my first reference for this, but we'll get to it. And then to cast a spell, a wizard declares which spell they wish to cast and its target if required. So super simple things there.
That actually is something that I did wrong in the previous edition, and I think is important. Is you don't get to cast your spell and then choose your target. You say, I'm casting the spell and I'm targeting that, and that does make a bit of a difference, especially since some spells have different power levels. So you may want. Like if you got like the worst version of the spell, depending on your role, you may want to put that on a different thing. No, you gotta choose which one you're shooting it at.
Or targeting. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Okay. So choosing a target. Unless stated otherwise, following the rules apply. The target must lie within the wizard's vision of arc. Could you just TLDR vision of arc for me?
Yeah, essentially. So all units have a arc of sight, or basically, which is 90 degrees in front of it. So coming out of the square. So you get sort of I don't know. It looks like a protractor coming out of the front of it. We have dongles that were made for the Square Bass GT, so maybe we can make those available in general. They're very useful. But essentially, think of essentially they're front facing, looking straight ahead, and a little bit to the sides. That's what they can see. So that's actually a big deal for everything. So that's anything in your arc of sight is what you can charge. It's what you can shoot. It's what you can use magic on.
And just to be clear, your own models can block your arc of sight, your line of sight through them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, another deep dive I think we should definitely do. But that's going to be something like drawing line of sight. Your arc of sight and line of sight are different. Arc of sight is your potential, line of sight is your actual.
Yeah, so your arc of sight is like your range of vision. It's what you can see. It's like basically, what you can see in front of you and your peripheral vision. That's it. And the other thing that's interesting in this game, and this is where it gets so much fun, whereas in something like 40K, probably AOS, if you run beside a unit, well, who gives a shit? Like you're right there. I can still turn, shoot you, charge you, do whatever I want. In this game, you could be right in the middle of a bunch of very dangerous things. But because of how movement works and how restricted it is, they can be entirely safe. So it's so much fun, like especially when you get things that are like, for example, if your wizard has the ability to fly, either through a mount or an item or their unit card itself, you can position them in ways in which they are danger close, but actually safe. So that's why Arc of Sight is in general an amazing mechanic in this game. It makes things really, really cagey when you're moving around, and something that I think beginner players will probably just completely forget about. You'll see things on the table and you'll be like, no, I can't go there, that's dangerous. But in fact, you could be completely safe. So Arc of Sight is really, really important. I
think also this is one of those very core things that you should talk about a lot with your opponent. You should be over communicating with your opponent. You should move a unit, you should put down a tray and be like, I think I'm out of the arc. What do you think? Or and they'll be like, yeah. You'll be like, cool. You want to establish those things often and continuously, because I think maybe that will be the most sore point potentially available on the tabletop.
We've learned as a society that continuous and ongoing intent is very important, and that is something that you're going to want to always do as you're doing your movement. If your intention is to be out of a certain arc of sight, or in a certain arc of sight, make sure that is clear and that you both agree on that. And this is actually where I don't know if you guys saw another really great tool for playing the game is a laser line. So instead of a laser pointer, it actually draws a line on the table. And because of how line of sight's abstracted, even more useful now. So a couple tools make the game real smooth and much more easily agreed upon as to what the game state is. But
you should also be attempting to agree upon stuff all the time.
Yes, absolutely. You don't have to, but it's a very handy tool even for me being able to visualize those things, because a lot of times I'll eyeball something, I'll do it, and I'm just wrong. And that gets me all the time. So just saying, yeah, that's close enough to yourself, even if you're not planning on arguing it, because I'll often be like, nope, I just screwed that up. Being clear with your intent also means that you get it right. So it's good for both parties.
I agree. Okay, so next up, we're talking about casting spells and the way it works. You roll 2d6 and you add your wizard level. If the casting result equals or exceeds the spell's casting value, which will say on the spell, a spell is successfully cast. If the casting result is less than the casting value, spell is not cast. Then you've got perfect invocations and you've got miscasts as well. So if you roll a double 6 when casting, this spell is a perfect invocation, and then a perfect invocation cannot be dispelled. So so you cannot attempt to dispel it. If you have a miscast, which is a roll of a double 1, then you have to roll on the miscast table. So I'd like to just skip that for a moment and come back if that's okay, because I'd like to just talk about dispelling first, and then we can just go back to miscasts.
Yep.
Because there's some important stuff here. So Wizardly Dispel, you got two types of Dispel. You got Wizardly Dispel, and then you just have like a global Dispel. What is it? Fated Dispel. That's it.
Yep.
A Wizardly Dispel is effectively exactly like casting 2d6 plus your wizard level. But there is a very significant point here, which I think people will overlook, that when you're attempting to dispel, you have to beat the casting value, not equal the casting value. So if I roll a 10, Val has to roll an 11 to dispel it. Now that's actually massive numbers wise, like where magic res and other stuff is going to come into effect, but actually there's some great mathematics on that, I think, as well. And like a level 4 versus level 3 is effectively at +2. So that casting is very interesting. And like Val said earlier, if you're level 1 and 2, your dispel range is 18 inches, and your level 3 and 4 dispel range is 24 inches. Wizards that are engaged in combat and are fleeing cannot be nominated to dispel, which is also huge as a factor.
Yeah. Or not on the battlefield too. So like there's situations where you can be in reserve, or you could also pursue someone off the table and you're just sort of briefly off the table, which is an interesting thing in fantasy, and then you come back on. So if for whatever reason a caster is not on the table, they cannot dispel, and obviously they can't cast either. That's super interesting. Off of this, one thing is on there's I guess I didn't include it. Whoops, maybe I didn't. What's the next slide? We can talk about this then.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say there's unbinding, which is the opposite to a perfect invocation. But a perfect invocation. So say you roll boxcars on your cast, and then they roll boxcars to dispel. Yeah, 2 6s. The casting one takes precedence. So if you have a perfect invocation, it cannot be dispelled.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so when you are rolling to dispel, like Val said, you need to exceed the casting. You also need to obviously be in range. So I think that's going to be actually more difficult to do. And if you aren't in range, you can make a fated dispel. And once per turn, you can just make a fated dispel. Anyway, this is kind of interesting because we'll talk about it in a minute. There are sometimes you maybe don't want your wizard to dispel even when they can, but you're going to make a fated dispel, but you won't be able to add any wizard levels to it. So you're probably going to be really struggling against level 4, but you might be able to just roll it against a level 1. And the reason you might
also go ahead. You'll also know the casting value, so you'll know what they rolled before you decide if you're doing a wizardly dispel or a fated dispel.
That's actually really important.
A fated dispel. The reason is basically it has no modifier to it. So normally you would add your wizard level to a wizardly dispel. A fated dispel is just the 2d6. So if they get the spell off, but it's a low dice roll, you might just say, I'm not going to risk a miscast a outclassed in the art on the dispel, and you could use your fated. But
yes. So, or more accurately is table wide, correct. So you can also do table wide, so you can do it from anywhere. So if you're not in range, you've got a chance. Okay, so then, like Val was just talking about, if you do roll a double 1, so if you roll a double 6 when attempting to do a dispel, you immediately shut down the spell, as long as, obviously, they haven't rolled a double 6, because there's they could roll an 11 and have +5 to cast. So they've rolled a 16. So your 12 shouldn't stop it, but it will stop it. And then finally, if you roll a double 1, and this is going to I think loads of people have not read this yet. I don't know why. I think this hasn't kicked up
an almanac.
Yeah, I know. We talked, but I haven't seen lots of discussion around it. And I'm like we talked about it, and I was like, I don't like this at all. But here we are. Yeah. If you roll a double 1, you roll on the miscast table. So even dispelling has got some magical danger to it, which is now we can go look at the dispelling. But I hate that.
I would say, so just a quick hot take on this one. I would say that, and we're going to see this in magic math, this is also going to be very dependent on how things actually work out on the table too, right? Because having these things in space, being in range, how you actually move your wizards around, who's in range of what, that's actually that's going to be the game, that's going to be the counterplay, all that stuff. But in general, dispelling, you can just keep trying, right? So your wizard just can keep dispelling. As long as someone's casting.
But not sorry, just to be clear, like we were earlier, you could only make one dispel attempt on against a cast.
against a particular spell.
Yes.
But like,
I cast a spell, 1 dispel attempt. But yeah, like you say, that wizard can try and stop every wizard that's in range.
Yeah. If there's 5, if there's 5, level 2s spamming a magic missile against you, and they're all within 24 inches of your level 4, they can mind fend off every single one of them if they so choose.
Do you know what?
So
I'm super proud of this show. This is good beginner shit, which is like really vital, but also high level shit. Like, it's just a nice level. Do you know what I mean? It's like you have to roll 2 dice. You're like, okay, taking notes.
You just described exactly the level I'm at, homie. So what Rob's saying is that, well, if you're on defense, why should you risk? Or like, it seems kind of dumb that the mechanic would be that there would be a chance of a miscast. I think the reason is that a single level 4 is going to be rolling a ton of dispel attempts if they're just sort of, and there's other things that can increase your dispel range and all sorts of stuff. So if they didn't have this condition on it, there would be absolutely no restraint to dispelling, and there'd be no thought to it. I actually think that the risk of dispelling is maybe a bit too low, considering how effective dispelling can be in shutting down magic. There's a lot of stuff that actually makes casting quite difficult if you're in range of someone's anti-magic defenses.
I'd argue that, like we just talked about before, like the efficiency of magic missiles or even some of the enhancements or hexes are pretty big. They're big pivot moments in a game. Like, I'd have won that if I'd have done X spell. And I think there's enough restrictions. Like, I've got to be in range. I have to beat their casting value. Those are both significant. I'm not locked in combat. That's a problem as well. So, like, if the game is snowballing against you, like, i.e., your opponent is really kicking your ass, and now all your wizards are locked in combat, now they have a much more dominant magic phase in addition. So it's going to snowball much more aggressively against you. So I think there's enough in here, like, and we're in different places. You're like, I want more than the double 1, and I'm like, I don't even want the double 1. So I think there's definitely a range there. Sure.
Yeah. And again, this is because we're still theory hammering it. Like, I don't know. We'll have to see how it feels. Everyone who I know who's been like crushing out TTS games and actually playing the game, it's funny. Like, some are really enjoying the magic. Some are like, it's kind of lame. I suspect, though, this is all about learning the nuance and learning the counterplay, and being very focused on how do you take your opponent's wizard out of the game. Because, again, just locking them up with a chaff unit means that they can't dispel. Yeah. And then just very quickly, if we can talk about the miscast table in general, though.
Yeah, let's go for it.
There's essentially, so on the miscast table, you roll 2d6. Again, that's probably modifiable with various items and abilities. And essentially, you've got the basically 2 to 6 are somewhat bad. 7 is pretty neutral. So that's your most likely outcome, is a single strength 4 hit with an AP of -1 on your wizard. And then 2 of them,
though, but that's on your level 2s, that's one of their 2 wounds potentially. 50% death.
But, 1/3 of the time, assuming they don't have a save of any kind. But 2 of the options, which are barely controlled power, the spell is cast just at its regular casting value. And also power drain, the spell is cast with perfect invocation, which is on 10 to 12. So you basically you're just as likely to have a positive outcome as a very negative outcome on the miscast table. So it's, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. And this is coming from the 8th edition miscast table, which had
also wasn't a big deal.
This is the thing. It had some wild shit on it. You could forget your spells. You could have your guy literally sucked into the realm of magic and die. Like, there was some real, like, low chance of happening things, but nonetheless real awful things that could happen. On the miscast table, I don't think it really matters for the most part. And because of the way that you can protect your wizard by, for example, the absolute worst thing you could roll is 2 to 4 dimensional cascade, 5-inch blast template over top of them that hits everyone around him will then have a risk of being hit by a strength 10 AP -4 like thing. That's bad. But if your wizard, for example, is chilling 3 inches away from a unit, and
in a unit of skirmishing archers that don't care,
or in a unit, you might hit a couple. Like, it's not really that bad. So yeah, that's all that's my take on it. And then on the miscast version of this, you're essentially taking a few of the words and replacing the spell is cast with the spell is dispelled instead of. So like on 8 to 9 and 10 to 12, you basically either dispel it just at the casting value, or you get a irresistible dispel. I gotta start remembering the terms, but yeah.
Yeah, the terms are actually like a little awkward. Yeah, so yeah, perfect invocation.
Well, it's just because we're just used to the old terms. That's all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of questions in the chat. So just to be clear, if you did have multiple wizards with the same spell, they can all cast. We did cover this already, but I'll just re-go over it. They can all cast that version of a spell. So let's say you have 4 wizards. They've all got Fireball. You can make an attempt to cast Fireball from each single wizard, which is cool. And there are some other stipulations which we talked about earlier. Val covered really well. So just to be clear, yes, another great point being made in the chat. Just having a level 4 in the middle of the board, being like, I'm going to shut down all the spells. But if he's rolling like 12 different dispels over the course of a turn, then
it's going to come up.
It's going to come up. I think is going to be the point. So yeah, there's some real interesting stuff there. There's some nice mechanics, in my personal opinion. Right.
I think it shapes up to be really interesting. I would not dismiss it at all. Go ahead.
Was this given us by Big Jables of the...
Shut up, Big Jables!
Oh my God, one of the founders of the...
Jables.
Do you know he's one of the founders of the Tough Crowd? The Tough Crowd.
I know. He asked me if I was going to LVO, and I said, "Did I save your life last year?" And he said, "Nope, that wasn't me, babe." And I was like, "All right, cool." I'm not going to LVO. Tough Crowd. You guys do what you do, and I can't wait to see. It's going to be good. Speaking of annoying sound effects, Tough Crowd, everybody. Very quickly, because I think we should pick up the pace. Magic Math from Big Jables. So this is actually just like a little peek, because actually there's a lot more scenarios that would probably need to be covered. I think I'm going to build this out into a matrix that we can have as cheat sheets. Mm-hmm. But this is just a range of scenarios here to give you an idea of how the impact of basically your caster level versus the person who's trying to dispel against you. So we have the casting value. So that's what it takes to actually get the spell off. And then we have level 1 versus level 4, level 2 versus level 4, level 3 versus level 4, and then an even matchup, 4 versus 4. Mm. And then essentially you can have a look then and see...
Is level 1 the caster and level 4 the dispeller?
Exactly. Yes. This is always like basically like what's the worst case scenario trying to get a spell off, essentially. Okay. So maximum defense, this is before other things like magic resistance. So that's another thing to consider. Like if a unit that you're targeting has magic resistance, usually -1 or 2, that's already going to make the spell harder to cast. So you're basically getting a negative modifier to your dice roll, and then you might be being dispelled by somebody who's got a higher wizard level than you. So it can be there's a lot of defense out there for against magic. That's something to really, really be focused on. But anyway, this just gives you an idea. So this is actually the odds that you are going to be successful, and that includes the roll to actually get the cast done by the caster, and then it includes the odds of it then being dispelled. So if your casting value is a low level spell, like a cheap magic missile or something like that, and the casting value is 5, so you need to get a 5 or better, and you're facing a level 4 who can dispel you, you've got about a 25% chance of that spell goes off from all of that.
Which is not good.
Which is not good, but it's also maybe not as bad as people think.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously this is averages as well, right? Like I think what's a lot of people talking about right now is having a lot of level 1 wizards, because what you're doing there is you're having an opportunity cost versus so having a level 4 is just absolutely pushing through the likelihood of achieving it. But if I've got 4 wizards who are level 1, then I've got more opportunity to just roll a double 6, more opportunity to just roll real high every time and push that curve much higher. And I think that's some some sensible also math as well. This is really getting into like a territory which I know, especially new people will be like, oh, holy hell. But one of the things I remember when I first got into Warhammer Fantasy Battle all them years ago is I was like, how big is a unit? And like no one could give me an answer. No one could tell me if it was 5 wide or 10 wide or like that was one of those things.
In this game, like no one knows right now. It's actually super frustrating. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah. Right. So I think these are the things that are really, really helpful for new people to work out, because really what you're going to be asking yourself is, do I want a level 4? In some cases, a level 4 might be something you have instead of a Lord, and you might be like, I'll just take a level 2, So this will give you a good indication, because you might be like, I'm going to take a level 2, and they're definitely going to generate that 5-up ward spell, and they're definitely going to make that unit be my killer block. And it's like, actually, no, bud, that's not going to work out that way. So I think having some realism, it helps.
Yeah, so a level 2, to also think about it this way, on points is generally speaking half the cost of a level 4, right? I'd say you've done more deep dive, like you've done more close readings of the units. It'd be somewhere around there, and this is where the math is like the actual relative value is going to come into this in a big way. But for example, if you're if you look at the level 2 versus level 4, so that's generally speaking, that's basically an upgraded sort of hero tier wizard. You're looking at about a third of the time being successful on both the casting and dispel roll being factored into it, which, as Rob said, if you're looking at, for example, if there's a signature spell in the Lords of Magic you have access to, like a magic missile or vortex or something, and you just want to be able to use that a lot, it may not be a bad call to actually go with multiple lower level wizards, because I think the meta will immediately gravitate to level 3s and 4s, because they're going to assume that you're just never going to get anything off. So I'm curious to see, like, this surprised me that like a level 4 is basically like if you're casting 2 level 2s, you might have, like, casting the same spell, 2 level 2s both being dispelled by a level 4, you probably have a better chance of getting it off than 1 level 4 casting against a level 4, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I do. Like, and again, that spell value, like, it's all going to be about that. Like, if the magic missile that you can cast is an 11, then time to not try and do the level 1 and 2 trick. But if it's around the 5, 6, 7 category, and then also, like, do you know what? Like, I'm looking at a 24% chance of a 1 versus 4 versus a 2 versus 4, and I'm like, I go up to 33%. Yeah, like 8% difference, a third of the time versus a quarter of the time feels much more effective, especially if it's something I'm doing multiple times. So I think this is a really interesting like conversation, especially spell generation is also interesting as well, and it feels like we're already not deep diving enough. So there's actually something also that's worth coming back to. So we haven't in your army reviews, you haven't done magic items yet, and also, although you do talk about the lores, I think it would be great to come back to them in a deep dive context as well. And I think this type of thing, like, for example, I think we could make a really nice matrix out of, so that we have basically 4 charts, and the first one is level 1 versus a level 1, and basically you can see the whole range of outcomes. So that's very easy to discern what the probability of success is in any given situation, or at least get an idea. Because one of the things that in the Magic phase, because there are all these plus to minus modifiers, it's not just straight 2d6 math. Having cheat sheets like this, or at least in your head, just some like ideas of like likelihood, is really important, because you might put yourself in a position otherwise where, I got a level 4 versus a level 4, oh man, like that means I've got the advantage. Yeah, you do. You just have a slight edge though. So you have a little bit better than 50-50 when it's just wizard v wizard. And so, like, knowing that makes, I think, a big difference in what your choices are on the table. I know a lot of people don't like Math Hammer, but like when I look back at 8th edition and the very complex casting process that you'd go through in that game, the most valuable thing I had was a probabilities chart. So I knew, or at least I had an idea of what my likelihood of success was based on what I was putting into it. And I think something like that in this will be very helpful as well. So we can probably start our lores. Yeah, we can. Last thing, any +1 to cast. If you want to be a magic dom in the army, if you want to be like absolutely making everyone subservient to you, a +1 to cast on a level 4 is wowzers, like absolute wowzers. And there are Warriors of Chaos have got a +2, and that is stunning, is what I'm going to say.
Or consider that. So you're talking about the Tzeentch mark, right?
Yeah, well, Tzeentch mark plus also an artifact that can have +1.
So think of then also the value you're getting if, for example, you're a level 2 and you give them a +2. You're going from, you're half as expensive probably as your level 4, and you're getting the level 4 value.
Yeah.
So
what's
stuff like that is so cool.
What's interesting is that it's an AoE buff. Like there's a +1 AoE buff, and you get +1 from being in Tzeentch. So you can have multiple. You can have a +4 at +2, but then multiple +2s at +2. So,
and I think in that particular case, I suspect the second option is going to be way better for the points.
Yeah, but there are so many armies. It's so interesting. Then dwarfs come in, and everything sucks. Okay, so
actually, I should have probably included the runic stuff, but anyway, we can do that when we cover them.
Yeah.
I went through guys here, and just each time we get to one of the lores, we'll look at it in detail. But this is unfortunately because of embargoes right now. We won't know until after the rules drop. Probably next week is when I understand we're going to learn about all the renegades. So this chart, who can use it, is obviously just the 9 core armies that we know about right now, plus the 2 arcane journals.
I'm sorry, we need to talk about the renegade meme. There are no renegade factions. If they were, they're illegal.
GW George, aka Baghdad Bob. Yeah.
Well, Comical Ali, I learned he was called in Europe. Baghdad
Comical
Bob,
Ali.
Yeah,
That's
Baghdad
nice.
Bob was this is a Bush era Iraq reference.
This is a Bush administration timeout from 2 dorks who can't help but always go back to that.
I'd also like to be
time.
clear, not no endorsement of the Bush era. Like he's a genocidal murderer. Let's just be clear.
Well, okay, yeah.
I just thought some people were like, "Oh, those guys are pro-Bush. What a cool guy."
Well, 2 genocides don't make it right. So that's, I think, basically the position.
Right. Okay. So talking
we
about
digress.
talking about devils. Let's talk about different magics. Right. So the laws of magic. Right. We have. These are the core ones, and obviously we've got book spells to do at a later date. So we've got battle magic, and what an incredibly handy chart available to Empire, Bretonnia, Wood Elves, High Elves, Orcs, Warriors of Chaos. Demonology, Empire, Bretonnian, Exiles, Warriors of Chaos, and Beastmen. Dark magic, maybe the strongest. Empire, Bretonnian, Exiles, Warriors of Chaos, and Beastmen. Elementalism, Empire, Bretonnia, Wood Elves, High Elves, Orcs, Goblins, Beastmen, Tomb Kings. High Magic, only Wood Elves and High Elves. Although I think we're going to add Lizardmen to that. Illusion.
And I'm surprised no Tomb Kings on that one. I feel like Tomb Kings used to be a High Magic user, but anyway.
Yeah. Then we've got Illusion, available to Empire, Bretonnia, Wood Elves, High Elves, Night Goblins, and Tomb Kings. Necromancy, available to Empire, Bretonnian, Exiles, and Tomb Kings. And then Waaagh Magic, Orcs, and Goblins only. I have a question. Why was Waaagh Magic included in the core rules? Odd. Just odd, I think.
Yeah. Just odd. I think it's well. I guess Waaagh Magic will be accessible by potentially Chaos Dwarfs through if they maybe have a caster like who's a Hobgoblin or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, in general, I think it's just to make it so that these lores are all just sort of centralized, right? Like that's it. Like these are the base ones, and then the army lists themselves add signature spells to them. So that's actually, I think, why is because the magic system immediately is quite capped at how bloated it can get, because these are all of the spells. And then there are some extra signature spells, and that's it. Whereas in previous games, there were 8 core lores of magic that most factions had access to, and then in your book you'd have another full 6 and a signature spell, maybe, and sometimes multiples of that if you were chaos and demons. So this, I think, keeps it a little cleaner, even though it is a little silly that Waaagh Magic and Necromancy, for example, are fairly limited.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, okay, so let's just jump
Battle
straight
Magic,
in.
let's do it.
Battle Magic. Who can cast it? We covered that already. Our signature spell. So if you're going to just drop down, you can drop down to Hammer Hand. No. It's an assailment spell, so that means you can do it in combat. It's cast on 7, range in combat, a single enemy unit. The caster is engaged with suffers 2d3, strength 4 hits with an AP of 2. A genuinely solid attack. However, most casters are very fragile in this game. Level 2 is 2 wounds each, level 3 is 3 wounds. I'm not 100% certain. I would love to have that after you.
I do also want to point out something I didn't call out in the conditions chart on assailment spells. This is interesting. These spells are cast at their initiative step.
Yes.
So it's not something that you can do like if someone's got the jump on you. This isn't something that you just cast at the beginning of combat. It's not like impact hits or something like that. It's something that actually the wizard has to survive until they're able to swing. And it's in addition to any actual attacks that they have. So if you have a tough caster, it can be the assailment spells can be Treatment Ancient. Assailment spells can certainly be useful. Woodies have access to this. It's sort of a handy to have, but not necessarily. It would really be caster dependent. And again, looking at strengths of lores based on their signature spell, I think in a lot of cases, Battle Magic for me immediately because I'm guaranteed Hammer Hand plus any of my faction spells. That's what I'm walking in. That's what I know walking to the table I have. That being said,
that's interesting. I love Battle Magic.
2d3 strength 4 hits with an AP of -2, however, ain't nothing because they are automatic hits. So that's an average of 4 hits, and that would essentially this is 8 attacks if you think of it in a lot of cases, assuming you're hitting half the time. So it's like a fair amount of output for combat, assuming you have a caster who can survive.
I love doing these shows because I've already created a new archetype for myself, which is a really resilient caster, like a Demon Prince, like something like that. Now I'm trying to find myself a couple of different assailment spells that I can double up in. So I'm doing my combat res, then I'm double assailing, and then I'm just having a good time, which I think go on.
Yeah, and something too that we didn't touch on, because actually I guess it's important in this context, is the vast majority of wizards cannot take armor. They can't wear armor. They can't wear magic armor. So they're going to be reliant, generally speaking, on a ward save if you buy them the item, which is usually limited to 5 up now, and then or regeneration saves, which again, generally limited to about 5 up. Casters are pretty squishy as a rule, and there are things that maybe are on a case-by-case basis might be a bit different.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.
Okay, so that's the signature spell that you're going to go for. Battle Magic Fireball. There's Magic Missile, so you can do it in shooting phase. Cast on 8, so easy to cast. Range 24 inches. 2d6, strength 4 hits, each with an AP of dash. And it's got the flaming attack special rule. Now, I love this. I kind of wish this would be the signature spell, but I understand why not, because I think this is great. It's 24-inch range. That is the thing that I love. Easy enough to cast, which is great. And then 2d6 strength 4 hits. Strength 4, not strength 3. Great spell. 11 out of 10 spell.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. Wouldn't be upset about it at all. But again, if Magic Missiles is what I'm gunning for, I'm looking for a signature spell probably. This is a nice to have, but something that could be swapped out from for sure. And it's not something that you're guaranteed to have. I'd say it's a nice to have.
I would say, you're not guaranteed to have it, of course. So then Battle Magic next is a Hex. This is the Curse of Arrow attraction. It's cast on 7, and like I said, it's a Hex 21 inches. Until your next start of turn subphase, you may reroll any rolls to hit of a natural 1 when shooting at the target enemy unit. And this is obviously very specific if you have a lot of missile weapons. But the fact that it's your entire army is going to get to reroll those ones becomes very interesting in the right army build. Wood elves, dwarves, probably not Empire, maybe Empire, but probably not.
It depends. If you lean into ballistic shooting, they've got crossbows, archers, handgunners. They got lots of things. This is great because it's not it's not range bound to the units that are actually making use of it. Reminds me actually of a Tau, like a Tau marker light. Essentially. So like if you know you're going to be concentrating your fire on a particular unit, this is a great example of economies of scale. Your whole army is now rerolling ones against it. So that's pretty useful.
Of course, dwarves don't cast spells. Good point. So thank you. Okay, next up, Battle Magic. Pillar of Fire. This is the number 3 spell, Magical Vortex. Let's go. Remains in play, small 3-inch blast template, so that central holds within 12 inches of the caster. So it's quite close. Whilst in play, the template is treated as dangerous terrain. The template moves d6 inches in the direction the caster choosing during every start turn subphase. And then the moving template touches or moves over it. They suffer d3 plus 3 strength 3 hits, each with an AP of 2, and they've got the flaming attack special rule. Now, the reason I like Battle Magic on a level 4 is because you gain access to both this and Fireball. Probably. Not guaranteed, obviously. But this is, and again, it's not super strong, but like I talked about, because of the gimmicky way in which Magical Vortex is, and I think this should be the only time I say it, but the gimmicky way that Magical Vortexes work, that is potentially a lot of hits on a lot of units very regularly. And it's a 9. So if you're trying to stop it with a level 4, then fine. But if you're not, and also you got to be in range of, you got to get your level 4 within 24 inches of me, so I can cast it 12 inches away, move it d6 inches, and just be out of there. Now this thing is just running around. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, you can also cast it well out of range of anyone who's able to dispel against you, because again, it's moving. Let me see. The display moves into a cast during the start of every turn subphase. So actually, something interesting here to point out is that it doesn't move initially, so it actually has to survive a dispel attempt in order to have the chance to move. Yeah.
But then it's at the start. I'm sure it's at the start of every turn subphase. Yeah, the caster's choosing during every start of turn subphase, not just.
Oh, okay. So
just
on
not
your
yours.
opponent's turn. Okay.
Yeah, so it's on your opponent's turn. So you're going to move it in your opponent's turn, move it in your turn. So it's going to get a lot of movement. You effectively could be doing damage to them in their turns, which I'm in love with.
Which they can do. It's going to have a chance to move d6s into a unit, pop through, do all that stuff. They can't stop it from doing that unless they dispel it off the hop.
At which point it might be outside of the arc.
It's the wizard.
It's a wizard. It's a wizard.
Yeah,
it's a wizard. This is spicy.
But the wizard could be well far away.
Vortexes are spicy. Like, I need everyone to know. Might be meta.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And there's also, I don't think anything here that says that the next turn you couldn't just pop another one out there.
So there is something. There's a line that says it requires a certain level of concentration to maintain a remains in place spell, so that you can only have.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, the wizard can continue to cast other spells, but not the same remains in place spell. My mistake. But there could be 2 wizards that have this.
I know. There could be 5.
Yeah. Sure.
My excitement abound. Okay.
Cool.
Right. Next up, Arcane Urgency, Conveyance spell cast on a 10, so pretty high value. Range of 15. The target friendly unit is not fleeing, has already moved during this movement phase. It may immediately move again. Has already moved. If they've already moved and not fleeing, move again. Absolutely fantastic spell.
No brainer. Awesome spell. Yep.
Yeah. So you can just move past your opponent's arcs so that you're out of their charges in the next turn. Just great spell. And that's what I mean.
I wonder, does that count marching? I guess would marching be a move? If you're, I assume you could march again.
Has already moved during the movement phase. Yes, I'm pretty certain. Right.
I feel like you could.
Wes in the chat.
Marching is conditional on the unit formation, so I think you could.
Yeah, agreed. Oaken Shield, absolutely stonking spell. It's an enchantment. It's cast on 7. It's range self. So this means you can do it in combat.
Nice. Good catch. Yes.
So until the start of your turn subphase, the cast at any unit they've joined gains a 5-up ward save against any wounds suffered. So this is probably the reason I expect to see level 4s with this, with battle magic, because now I'm doing a vortex, a magic missile out of a unit, and then I'm just giving what is already a combat unit pretty survivable a 5-up ward save. It also means I don't have to magic item for a 5-up ward save. Obviously I've got to get it off. There's other conversations, but economies of scale, this feels very positive, right? A 5-up ward save on a whole brick of something.
Yeah, I do not dislike this at all. Very castable as well. What's interesting is if you are locked in combat against a unit that, say, is where a wizard is living, they can't dispel it. So that's kind of neat. So yeah, this is a no-brainer. This is good. 5+ ward save, good. That means you're always getting that 5 up, and that also protects. And it's against any wound suffered, which is also key. A lot of times there's a limitation either from ranged or whatever. So that would be also against miscasts. That's against that template exploding. They'd be able to use this ward save. So yeah, this would be maybe a way to get some economy out of those level 2 battle mages, because it would give them protection without having to spend anything on an item.
Yeah, imagine a 2-up cavalry unit, a 2-up armor save cavalry unit with now a 5-up ward save, and they're not pointed to have that 5-up ward save, so it feels significant, right?
Yes, it's big. It's big.
Yeah, yep. And then battle magic, last one, Curse of Cowardly Flight. It's a hex cast on 9, 15 inches. The target enemy unit must immediately make a panic test. If the target unit automatically passes a panic test, it's required to make, for any reason, it must still make this test, and should it fail, it will give ground. And again, I think actually an excellent spell. It's limited range, 15 inches, so that's probably my negative. It's probably not as strong, but being able to manipulate my opponent's movement even by 2 inches, right? So that the charge they were expecting, those sorts of things, and you should be doing it from the caster, so they'll be moving in a direction that. Oh no, give ground's directly backwards, right? So anyway, but I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I would assume where they give ground would just follow the panic test rules, which I think you're fleeing directly away from whoever the caster is. Panic is interesting. I think you basically do a fallback in good order in general. We didn't really touch on it in the previous one. I can double check, but a lot of times. There's going to be people who have the ability to pass this. This is something I would have liked to see more spammable. This is one where you'd want to be able to do it a lot. I feel like this would be likely.
That would be too much.
This one to me is very likely it's going to be very opponent dependent. So like when you're rolling these up, depends on who you're facing. You're facing orcs and goblins, sure. Something with low leadership, sure. But I mean, against Tomb Kings, pushing guys back 2 inches, who cares?
Yeah,
I say.
Okay. I think this is one of those ones I'd like to see on the tabletop. Moving my opponent's units in a place they didn't want to be feels interesting, especially when hexes are done before I do a charge.
Yeah, you've got to cast a spell and they got to fail it, and there's lots of things to reroll.
So many stipulations. Checks. I'm with you.
So it's kind of unlikely, is my feeling.
So overall, what's your thoughts on battle magic?
Warmed up to it. There's I would say this would be the only obvious clunker, but I've warmed up to it. The signature spell didn't really feel. I think battle magic feels like it could be a really good one for if you want to bring a bunch of low level casters. I think it'd be a good one, and combine it with, the signature spell that you have access to from your faction. I think it could be good, depending on what you roll up.
Yeah, I think a level 4 is going to be able to really utilize this because it depends, but I think most of the spells are useful, which I think is great. I rate battle magic high. That 5-up ward save. If I'm building the right army list, I'm basically taking a level 4 to get that 5-up ward save. I think
a third of the time you just don't get it. Although, we didn't say this. I don't know if we covered this actually. It's not quite a third of the time you don't get it, because on a level 4, if you're rolling any doubles you get. You just get to pick on one of them.
But so it's worth mentioning again.
So it's actually not quite exactly a 2/3 chance that you get a given spell. It's actually better than that because of doubles.
All right, we're moving on to Daemonology. Okay, taken by Empire, Bretonian Exiles, Warriors of Chaos, and Beastmen. Our signature spell is a magic missile. Cast on a 9.
Now I'm paying attention.
Okay, and a range of 18 inches. I think doubles reroll, just not pick. Something we should check. We will check. The target enemy unit suffers 2d6 strength 4 hits with an AP of 1. I cannot express how much I dislike that this exists. I am happy it's 18 inches, though, not 24 inches. Okay, this is decent.
I mean, assuming there's probably nothing that can extend the range of casts. Maybe there is. I don't know. I don't know. I immediately love it. It's a better fireball. Again, maybe the range is a factor, but I still think it's pretty good. It's a better fireball and it's a signature spell. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I think the safety of it being a signature spell is positive. Cast on 9, that's fine. Very good, very good.
All missile.
All magic missiles will be good.
Magic missile always useful. Yeah, like 2d6. So this is. Yeah, they're always useful. We don't need to be.
Yeah, like a wood elf guy's like, my glade card are actually a skirmishing unit that's actually already in hard cover, and you'd be like, fireball, bitch. Although in this case, it's summon demons. So
and I'd shout out to chat for making me check my 8th edition-ness. Correct. You re-roll duplicate results. You don't pick. The picking was from an older game. My mistake.
Appreciate that, chat. I also didn't know that, so there we go. Right, Daemonology, number 1, if you roll it up, Conveyance, cast on 9, 15 inches. This spell can only target friendly models whose troop type is infantry. The target friendly unit is not fleeing and has not already moved during this movement phase. It gains the Fly 12 special rule until the next start of turn subphase. This is very good in the right situation. Moving around the board is excellent. I don't think it's necessarily as good as a double move, but not bad.
Well, I mean, flying also has things like you can just fly over stuff. So, like that's immediately very good. A double, yeah, you can't do a double move, but 12 in a lot of cases, especially if it's an infantry unit, is going to be more than a march anyway. I think the benefits outweigh the downsides on that one for sure. Even though you can't double it up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. And I mean, you could make a unit fly 12, and then if you got the right spell, maybe double move from Battle Magic. If there's a combo is available for something swift, potentially. But anyway, yeah. Also, movement's always going to be good.
Also, am I crazy or like? Help me out here. The target friendly unit is not fleeing and has not already moved during this movement phase. It gains the Fly 12 special rule until your next start of turn. Oh, I see. So it's not that it flies. Okay. Because I was going to say, what's stopping you from moving again? So this is just giving you a big distance that it can go.
It's giving you an initial big distance.
Yep.
And which, I mean, legitimately not bad. Your opponent's like, I don't have to ever worry about that chosen warrior block. It's so slow. And then immediately just moves forward 12 inches, has a 5-up ward save, and you're like, oh dear.
Oh my.
Oh my. Okay, Gathering Darkness is a hex, cast on 9, range of 12 inches. Till the start of your next turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers -2 modifier to its initiative characteristic to a minimum of 1.
Bing, 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 bing. That's good.
A -2 modifier to its leadership characteristic to a minimum of 2. And yes, and they cannot use the General's Inspiring Presence special rule. The spell may target enemy unit that is engaged in combat. This is
maybe one of the best spells in the game, probably.
So good. Yes.
I mean, I haven't even. By the way, guys, I'm actually cold. I've skimmed these, and so these are all very hot takes from me. But immediately, based on everything we've talked about, initiative super important. Leadership, as far as its impact on being able to pass a break check, massive. And then on top of that, you can't use your general's leadership. This is deadly. This is a deadly spell.
Deadly spell. And also, let's just talk about like this plus just terror. So like I cast this on a unit. Thankfully, it's only range 12 inches, but I cast it on a unit. So now they're taking a terror check at -3 with no inspiring presence from their general. Right?
What if the person casting this happens to be riding a terror-causing dragon?
Problems is what it is.
Or any terror-causing mount. Like, yeah. Whew. This is good.
Yeah, because this takes you down from like, I don't know, if you have a really good elite block, leadership 9, this immediately just takes you down to leadership 6 on that test, and you're failing that more than you're passing it. So it's really good that this is 12 inches because this is a problem spell. But I expect there to be a caster somewhere along the way trying to make this, because this is going to massively also impact combat blocks as well, with the way that step up works and other stuff.
The fact that this is the fact either one of those effects, a -2 modifier to initiative, actually any one of these 3 effects a -2 modifier to initiative, a -2 modifier to leadership, or not being able to use the general's inspiring presence, all of those would be good spells.
Together, it's a problem.
Together, it's bananas.
And then
I love it.
the spell may target an enemy unit engaged in combat. Okay,
But not if you're in combat. That's
not if you're in
something.
combat, but this is so good. So then, and something you need to be very conscious of, very conscious of.
Danger.
Yeah, danger.
I'm in danger.
So, Daemonology, Demonic Familiars, cast on 8 and range combat, and it's an assailment spell. A single enemy unit the caster is engaged with suffers 2d6 strength 2 hits. No armor saves are permitted. This is fairly common through all of the different spell laws and books. You get a lot of no armor saves are allowed from these attacks, which is kind of good, but then oftentimes it's mitigated by, strength 2. So
strength, yeah.
And I think there's enough wards and regens that, I don't know if I care, but this is fine.
This is probably swappable, especially for that juicy magic missile.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah, that's way better than this.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree. Demonic Vessel is cast on a 10, and it's enchantment, and it's range on the self, which means obviously you can do it in combat. Until the end of this turn, the caster, their mount, and any unit they've joined gain a +1 modifier to their strength and attacks characteristic.
Good lord.
10, and improve the armor piercing characteristic of their weapons by 1.
Another triple buff.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that won't buff the mount. Will it? Yes, I think probably it will.
Yeah, their mount and any unit they've joined. It 100% buffs the mount.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, it says mount. Sorry.
Yeah,
Apologies.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Good lord.
Again, a triple buff. Man, maybe I need to play Warriors of Chaos. This always happens to me. However, by the way, this is interesting. So, I know you haven't dropped your Empire
today. Tomorrow now,
because
because obviously this will be today.
Yeah, but something to think about. Like Empire, it suffers from like the just a bunch of regular schmoes kind of situation. But like with a lot of factions like that, they are going to lean a lot on their buffs, and they have access for whatever reason to Daemonology. So like you might have low skill troops or troops that are not at first blush great, but don't only think about this on Warriors of Chaos. Who are already pretty damn good. You can also think about this in the context of making a bunch of halberdiers all hopped up on demons, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's what I tried to say at the start of the video, right? Like there is some opportunity, like to really increase the plus. I would say that the +1 modifier to their strength is actually not anywhere near as interesting to me as the attacks.
Attacks is humongous,
huge, because most like basic infantry is 1 attack. Like most of these, like
even a lot of elite infantry is 1 attack.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like great swords is just 2 attack. Great swords might be 1 attack actually.
Probably 1.
So then being able to double their output is so huge. So this is probably like an auto go for out of this spell law, which is amazing considering we've already got the other hex spell in here. So Daemonology is very strong, and I would say being able to have +1 strength, +1 attack to anything might be the best spell in the game, because
also,
that is doubling output on most units.
So one thing to bear in mind though is that's not going to double attacks on supporting attacks. So like if you are putting that on a bunch of plebs, you're going to need a wide enough frontage to absorb the very large punch in the mouth you're going to take. But it does mean that anyone who does survive to swing, has a much better chance. Also, something cool to think about is that the Bretonnian Exiles list has access to Daemonology. So like these are things that you can wind up combining with like big mounted knights of the realm and such. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about the good guys having access to Daemonology. I don't. This reminds me of 7th edition 40k, where you could have Malefic. I don't know.
I did a video yesterday, and I think one of the very best things about Old World at the moment for me is the crunchy rules creating wicked narratives. I can just go and make like a blasted, like almost demon kind of like. It's fun, I think. But
just immediately, like if I'm pulling this lore, then my country bumpkins of Stirland are suddenly like also sort of evil.
But that's not who's taking a demonology wizard, or maybe they need him. Maybe maybe they don't know.
Maybe
a
they
demon.
just thought he was a fun, like he had an alternative taste in music, and they just wanted him to come along.
Church of
All right,
Satan,
Vortex of
they're
Chaos.
evil.
Let's go.
Right, so cast on at 8, Vortex of Chaos, range 15 inches, remains in play. Play small 3 blast 8 template, so it centrals within 15 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, it's counted as dangerous terrain, moves d6 inches in random direction at the start of every, so in random direction at the start of every turn. Any unit, friend or foe, is d6 plus 1, strength 3 hits with an AP of dash. So not particularly strong, but a long setup range. Does move like randomly. I think this is probably maybe the miss out of the box.
So this one got pooped on because it was one of the ones that got revealed in an almanac. I will say this: now that we know about charging through difficult and dangerous terrain, which makes charging very hard, it is makes your charge -1 to your movement, and it means 2d6 pick the lowest. Tremendous penalty for charging through dangerous and difficult terrain. So plopping this in a place where it might get in the way between you and a very feisty unit actually might have use. So there's, I'm probably more likely to be swapping out the Assailment than I am this Vortex of Chaos. This is actually much more useful, I think, for board control than you might think.
No, I'm with you. 100% great assessment. Absolutely agree. It's just of all of the Vortex. I'm Vortex mad at the moment. It's just not my favorite Vortex. Not my favorite
But the
Vortex.
context of Demonology.
In the context of Demonology, you're absolutely correct. And then finally, number 6, because we've had like 3 bangers. So
Bangers.
bangers. So then Demonic Vigor, cast on 9, range 15 inches. Till the end of this turn, the target friendly unit gains +1 modifier to its movement, toughness,
Shut up.
and initiative characteristics to a maximum of 10. A triple buff.
They're all triple buffs. Demonology, fire. And you said Dark Magic's the best?
I'm Demonology, Dark Magic. I've got different feelings. They're both good.
So again, like of the 3 triple buffs, so one's a triple debuff, incredibly powerful. The other one on the pleasant, like honestly though, like so if we're talking about attacks, like basically buffing attacks, what was the other one? Buffs attacks, buffs,
A strength.
Strength, and something else. I want this one.
Really?
Because this is giving me better movement. This is so I'm able to so that's 2 inches on a march, even if I'm not using it, and it's also making me harder to wound. So I have a greater likelihood of surviving getting charged, and it's buffing my initiative. So I might even get to swing first. So like the odds of me getting a lot out of this, I feel, is even superior to the one that's buffing your output. So this to me, again, when you're looking at resiliency versus output and kill points, I'm giving the edge to Demonic Vigor.
Interesting. The toughness
also
is good.
long range, 15 inches for an enchantment. That's pretty damn good.
I mean, again, you could just put your character behind your front lines, right? And be casting these on, because you don't need to be. You don't need to be on them. You can just be behind them. Just be like that block in front of me. Buff it to heaven.
Casting value is 9, so a level 2 is doing this on a 7. That ain't bad. I really like this. Demonology, fire, good stuff.
Demonology, very good. No, these spells, just for people, they're not wholly within. So it's just within 15 inches, not wholly within 15 inches. So incredibly
you gotta
effective.
touch it. Yeah,
it's got to touch it. So
yeah.
Demonology, straight fire. All brilliant. Right, let's move on to Dark Magic.
This is thrilling, Rob.
I knew you'd like this.
All the context that we have too. This is thrilling. All right, let's keep going. Oh, good old Doombolt, baby. Doombolt's back.
Dark Magic. Our signature spell is Doombolt, cast on an 8, range 24 inches on a signature spell. You place
Magic Missile, 8+.
Oh no,
Very castable.
I think I've got the wrong effect for Doombolt on our slide. Give me a second.
Nope. Place a small 3-inch blast template. Yep.
And its central hole is directly over the center of the target enemy unit. An enemy model whose base lies underneath the template risks being hit and suffers a single strength 3 hit with an AP of 2. Is it a vortex spell then? No, it's a magic missile.
Nope. It's just a blast template magic missile.
Oh, there we go. So there we go. So it's not that great, right?
Yeah. So again, well, all right. So if we're thinking back to the last show, there's the example of a template hitting a unit of 30 millimeter size bases. The great thing about this is that it doesn't scatter, so that's nice. So your blast template is at least hitting the unit, and then that's probably going to be guaranteed one guy under the hole, and then in total hitting 9. So you're looking at about 5 hits here. That ain't bad. So if you're considering that, a 2d6, 2d6 hit magic missiles, usually around 7, you could get hot and actually, maybe get better than that. If you're aiming this at people on a 25 millimeter base, maybe you're doing better than that as well. So yeah, this isn't that bad because there's no scatter. The blast template is maybe a bit more effective. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a signature spell anyway. And again, you take multiples of those, not bad. So let's get into the spells. Number 1, Word of Pain. It's a range of 18, and it's a hex cast on a 10. So you're going to start looking towards level 3s and 4s casting this versus level 1s and 2s. Until starting next turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers -1 modifier to its strength and toughness characteristic to a minimum of 1. This spell may target an enemy unit engaged in combat. Now, the reason I love this is -1 to toughness grossly swings the math. There's a lot of I'm strength 3, toughness 3, and I'm strength 4, toughness 4. That's basically the difference between it's a difference between most armies. This is a heavier army, more elite army. This is not. And also taking 3s down to 2s is going to be significant, even for just some spells, some effects, and some other stuff. So I think that Word of Pain is very, very good.
Yeah, I would put it at definitely good. Again, because it's a combination of debuffing both output and resiliency. So that's great. Only a double buff though. So Daemonology is just like, who gives a shit? Yeah. And 10 plus to cast. That's a tall ask. This isn't something that you want on a level 1 or 2. A good spell. Yeah, good spell.
And I'm not
taking my clothes off.
And then cast into combat.
Yes.
Like I like that a lot. Especially, it's also its strength. So it's a defensive spell and offensive spell. 1 trick, 18 inches.
Yes. So you're again game and kill points. You're taking away their ability to deal and receive damage. That's never bad.
Never bad. Stream of Corruption is an assailment cast on an 8 range combat. Place a flame template so that the narrow end touches the caster's base edge and the board is over the unit they're engaged in combat with. Enemy model, friend or foe, whose base lies underneath the template risks being hit and suffers single strength 3 AP 1 hit. This is fine. Don't really care, if I'm honest.
You usually have, and I got to review the rules for Old World specifically, but you usually have your caster on the edge of a unit. You don't want them in the meaty middle. So you could get a cool diagonal shot down the line with the template, because the template is tier shaped. Those people who haven't used templates before, it's sort of it's about, I think it's 6 inches long. And tier shape, so like anything that's close to you is going to not be underneath it, and the end of it is a 3-inch template. So normally your formations are always, generally speaking, going to be wider than they are deep. So having this on the edge shooting across would be great. And the other thing is that I assume that if you're in the fighting rank and not in base to base, you can still cast assailment spells.
Yes.
So if that's the case,
because
then
you're still considered as being in combat because you can make a supporting attack.
Yes. So if that is the case, and I'll double check that as we keep going, then I don't mind this at all. This isn't necessarily an auto swap for me.
However, strength 3 against a unit that's toughness 3. However, if we made them -1 toughness, hello, welcome to the party.
Can't be the same guy though, because you'd be in combat.
Yeah.
Although no, you could hex them before you get to combat. So okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine that. Hex, run in, flame. You're like, whoa. Calm down, guy.
Yeah.
All right. Conveyance. Infernal Gateway is a conveyance, casting value of 10, 12 inches. This spell can only target friendly characters, may target characters engaged in combat. If the target friendly character is not fleeing, and it's very limited range, 12 inches, you may immediately remove it from the battlefield and place it anywhere within 12 inches of its original location, but not within 6 inches of the enemy model. So this is get out of dodge, which is amazing in a game of kill points. I'm trying to keep my BSB alive. I'm trying to keep my character alive. He's only got 1 wound left. Whatever the situation, pretty nice.
Yep, or a wizard who wound up in combat that you don't want to be in combat.
Let's go.
They tagged somebody. They caught him. So this is going to have to be someone else bailing out the target though, because it can. No, can you target yourself if you're in combat?
Yeah, it says it may target characters engaged in combat. I would say yes. Okay. The only stipulation is if the target friendly character is not fleeing, you may immediately remove it from the battlefield. I think so. Okay.
Yeah, if you can target yourself, then you can also just beam yourself out of there. You got to survive to your conjuration phase though. To your remaining move sub phase though. So that is something.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So then we got Phantasmagoria. Okay. It's a magical vortex cast on a 9 and with a range of 12
Rob's
inches.
Excited.
It's not my favorite so far, but hold on.
Okay.
That's a lie. It's my absolute favorite. Okay.
Okay.
And probably needs FAQ or just deleted. Who knows?
All right. Lay it on me, babe.
Okay, places a small 3-inch template within 12 inches of the caster, right? So that its central hole is within 12 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template, and it's cast on a 9, does not move and is treated as dangerous terrain. Enemy units that end their movement within 12 inches, that's significantly big, of the template must immediately make a panic test. Those that fail will fall back in good order or flee directly away from the template. Those that pass or do not have to make the test become subject to the impetuous special rule whilst they may remain within 12 inches of the template. So, entire army has to take panic tests, and then, by the way, you're impetuous, you're going to start charging when you don't want to charge. That is, and if it was just a unit, I wouldn't be too bothered, but 12 inches is massive from a 3-inch base, because it's effectively 27 inches width. So
that's big.
It's huge. Like, you're casting it 12 inches, so, you're not going to do this turn 1, thankfully, but you're going to push. Actually, turn 1, I put this 12 inches out, then I add 3 inches onto that, so that's 15, and then I measure from the edge of that, so that's 12. So actually, 3-inch template, it'd be 1.5, sorry, so 24, it'd be 25.5 inches. So if we deploy within 25.5 inches of each other, I'm immediately affecting you. And so I think you could cause some real problems with this. Real problems.
So unlike that battle magic one, where it's just one unit, force a panic check, this is one where I'm not like no big deal, because now you're forcing potentially a lot of panic checks.
Yep.
So you're getting that economies of scale because it's an area of effect, and then on top of that,
even if they pass
dangerous terrain. The template is dangerous terrain, so you could speed bump something. And so that's the other thing. So you put this in front of a unit that they're delicately trying to position. You then force them a panic check, but let's say they pass it because odds are that they might if they're near their BSB and their general. But now they're impetuous and they have to charge through dangerous terrain, which means there's a good likelihood that they fail, meaning that you're bringing that unit closer to yourself
on their turn.
On their turn. That's pretty handy. So this is a lovely chaotic spell. This feels like this should have been in a more chaotic lore, because this is just going to create chaos in the lines of an opponent, both because people are going to be falling back in good order off a failed panic check, and because they're going to be lurching forward potentially through dangerous terrain. This is a win for me. And a casting value of 9. Level 2 could get that off on a 7. Not bad. Not bad.
Well, I think
Range 12 is pretty limiting, though.
I think, but like we've said, even turn 1, you're affecting units 25.5 inches away. So,
Sure, yeah.
you know, like, yeah, anyway, it's, in my opinion, it's very, 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 very good. And probably my least favorite spell, it's my most favorite spell I want to use in an event, but my least favorite spell that I would want to bring to like a friendly pickup game with my friends, because it's just it's so disruptive, I think.
It's very disruptive. It's not so bad, and you can dispel it. You know, but like the casting value of a 9, you know, like that is not an automatic pickup when you're going to dispel.
Well, they also have to cast. They also have to cast it against. Also, you've got access in this spell lore to cast a spell and then use the conveyance spell to teleport yourself away.
Okay, cool. We are probably not going to get through all of them.
Right. So next up is Battle Lust. Which is an enhancement, value of 9, range 12 inches. Until the end of this turn, the target friendly unit gains the Frenzy and Hatred all enemies special rule. So if you not keep paying attention, that's +1 attack and rerolls to hit. Absolutely 11 out of 10. In my opinion.
And because like normally, Frenzy, for example, makes your units a little hard to control, but you're activating this when you want to. So this would be something that you would do before you charge, and once you get to your movement phase after the strategy phase, well, you wanted to charge anyway. It doesn't matter that they have to charge. So that's a really fantastic, being able to apply Frenzy rather than always having Frenzy, way better. And then Hatred's re-rolling. You know, the fact that it's an enchantment cannot target. Can't target things in combat means that you only get this for a turn, probably, though.
This is especially good on Beasts, though, because Beasts have got like a stacking series of buffs based off Frenzy, and so like this could give Beasts like +2 to their +2 to their attacks profile versus +1, which is nuts, and then rerolls to hit is super spicy.
I really like it.
And then finally, Soul Eater is a dark magic cast on a 7 range combat and assailment spell. A single enemy model the caster engaged with combat suffers a single strength 3 hit with multiple wounds 3. Special rule with no armor saves permitted, ward and regeneration saves allowed. So same thing that we've said about all assailment spells, effectively. But again, if you're a fighty caster, wicked, in my opinion.
Yeah, this allows you to snipe out. A single enemy model. Yeah, so this allows you to snipe out, you know, the champion or a character in the other unit. Probably the champion. Champions are important because you actually have to allocate attacks to them to kill them. So let's say you kill like the entire fighting rank, but you forgot to allocate attacks to the champion. They can still swing back and get some combat res. So killing the champion is kind of an important thing to remember. And this is something that would let you maybe punk them. Strength 3 though on 1, this to me is easily the swap out candidate.
Yeah, this one sucks. And I think that maybe this isn't quite as cohesive as Daemonology. Daemonology has got like 3 bangers. And so I definitely will take that criticism. But I think Phantasmagoria is great. I think Frenzy plus Hatred is great. So the spell that's going to cause you a real problem. The teleport's not bad. And then also Word of Pain for the -1 to strength and toughness. I think they're up there. I think maybe probably Daemonology's got a little bit more, but like I don't think all of the games are kind of spell winners in the right. Sorry, all of the spells are game winners in the right situation. But Phantasmagoria is a straight out and out game winner. Your opponent doesn't get rid of it for 2 turns, and all of their stuff is not doing what it wants to do. Obviously, it can also affect you as well. I feel like if you're running a melee force, you're not probably taking this, or maybe you are. You're letting them run to you. You're charging. Who knows? Maybe gun lines would really enjoy this because it's just like disrupting constantly their ability to do stuff. But there aren't many spells which are like, actually, that could win you games just if that just works.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like even things like Impetuous, it only triggers on a 4-up. Again, panic checks are going to be a lot of things. I think it'd be very opponent dependent about how effective it is at screwing them up. I do like that the area of effect is so massive on Phantasmagoria. Because you're gonna be forcing a lot of dice to be rolled.
Yes.
That all being said, I think Daemonology just dunks on dark magic That would be my opinion. Unless maybe Beastman because of that thing that you called out. But almost spell to spell, Demonology has felt superior to me. So that's just my take.
I think it's fair. I think it's really, really fair. Okay, so and then some of these are also army dependent as well, right? Like that's kind of the element, right? So Elementalism. This is Stormcall. This is the signature spell. This is a hex. And this casts on 7 with a range of 12 inches. Until your next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -1 modifier to its movement and initiative characteristics of minimum 1. If the spell is cast, the effect of other hex previously cast on the target unit immediately expires. And you're like, fine, it's 12 inches, it's -1 to movement and initiative, and sure, they're fine. It doesn't say it can be done into combat, and also you can't stack it with other stuff. So you're like, okay, what did Demonology do that Elementalism didn't? Like, who didn't Elementalism touch? Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing is it's very low casting value, 7 up. So that means at least it's, very accessible. It is a signature spell. So depending on what we see coming out of Elementalism here, it could have some utility. We'll see how many stinkers there are in Elementalism. This is also the most widely available lore, Rob, by my rough counting. The most amount of factions that we know of so far can take Elementalism. So, I mean, not bad, but you're right. Very restricted because it doesn't have like the ability to cast into combat. This is something that maybe is useful. Not very good because, this is something probably useful in the early turns, and you're probably not within 12 inches in that early turn. So,
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, okay, so then next up, let's roll a 1. We get Flaming Sword, which is an assailment, cast on an 8. It's in combat. A single enemy unit the caster is engaged in combat with suffer D6 plus 1 strength 3 hits with an AP a dash. These hits have the flaming attack special rule. Obviously, it's a lot of attacks, potentially 7, but more likely it's 4. And they're strength 3 with AP nothing. So I think this is just a nothing burger and we can skip, basically.
Okay. Yeah. DC strength. Yeah, that's pretty lame. Oh boy, Elementalism not starting out strong.
All right, Plague of Rust is a hex cast on 9, but it has the fantastic 21-inch range. Until the start of your next turn subphase, the target enemy suffers -2 modifier to its armor value.
I apologize, Rob. I have a
Okay, so Elementalism, like I said, a 21-inch range, and then -2 to the modifier to the armor value of an enemy unit. So sure, we haven't been impressed by Elementalism so far, but let's go. -2, add AP2 in there, -4. Steam tanks are just popping open like you wouldn't believe. Empire Knights are just being cracked open. This is the one that you're going to want from this spell lore, which I think is interesting.
Yep. Yep, I like it. Nothing more to say there. -2 modifier to armor value is going to be bad for everybody. And that's in addition to whatever AP you already have, too.
Yes.
So
good. Yeah. But and also good range, 21 inches.
Yes. And can be cast in combat. Yep.
Okay, right. Our next spell is Summon Elemental Spirit, which is cast on which is the third spell. It's cast on a 9 with a range of 15 inches. Remains in play. It's a magical vortex, I should have said. This is the one I want to kit bash, by the way. I'd love to kit bash this. Place a small 3-inch blast template so that its central halt is within 15 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template is treated as dangerous terrain over which no line of sight can be drawn. Would elves love it? The template moves D6 inches in random movement direction during every start turn subphase. Any enemy unit the moving template touches suffers D3 plus 3 strength 4 hits with an AP of 1. So just another vortex to throw out there. All basically the same, some not.
This I like. This Elementalism making a comeback on this spell. Mainly, again, because you got a decent reach on this, so 15 inches to push it out. The dangerous terrain, but also no line of sight. So you could potentially say you've got something that got out of position, although no, it would move by the time it got in there. I don't know, the line of sight thing maybe is a little harder to is a little harder to make use of because it'll move before your opponent has a chance to it will move out of the way. Like if you're trying to hide something, it'll like move out of the way, so you
Yeah,
can't really use it. It's
I-
just more disruptive than anything.
I agree, although I do love the idea of trying to use it to like block up a cannon in some ways, like, you know, or something like that. You're right, like more difficult to manage, definitely.
However, as far as your like skipping stone vortex concept is concerned, one that's doing five hits at strength 4 with a negative AP, that's pretty good. If it's skipping down a line. Although it's random movement after you place.
Random movement.
Does it move? And then it randomly moves after you place it, or does it move at all once you place it?
No, it's going to move after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I agree.
Never mind. Elementalism.
Oh, okay. Earthen Ramps enchantment. I think that -2. Earthen Ramps is cast on a 10, so this is getting towards the higher scale. It's 15 inches, and then until your next start of turn subphase, the target friendly unit gains a 5+ ward save against any wounds suffered, and count as having been behind a defended low linear object if charged. However, whilst this spell is in play, the target unit cannot march or charge. So, 5+ ward save. You don't have to be inside the unit. Going to be behind a defended low linear obstacle. However, whilst this spell's in play, cannot march or charge. And so you're not also going to be able to do it once they get into combat as well. So you have limited range on this 5+ ward. But it feels like this isn't something you're putting on a combat unit. This is something you're putting on a shooting unit, and you don't want your opponent to be like after you, basically. So this is a defense if you get charged, basically.
Yeah, this is sugar. I'm out of position, or I'm about to eat it. I can throw this on and hopefully give myself some benefits. I need to find low linear obstacle because I think it gives you a benefit in combat as well. I don't know if you're disordered, if you're defending, like your opponent's disordered, maybe. There's something about it.
Well, while you're looking at that, I just think the thing to point out now is that it feels like Elementalism is geared towards like a missile line, because now I'm like reducing your armor save at range, and if you do end up charging me, then I've got this defense against it. Similarly, as well, I've got a magical vortex that's going to pop around.
So the low linear obstacle actually means that if a unit's defending, before making a charging unit's charge roll, check to see if any part of the unit will move through difficult, dangerous terrain or across a low linear obstacle when it makes the charge move. So I don't know if that actually does trigger the issue, like basically severely penalized charge, because you're not crossing it, because I guess you would be like on one side of it.
Yeah, but the unit cannot march or charge, so it feels like it's geared towards a shooting block, which, there we go. Next up, Wind Blast is a 5. It's a magic missile. Cast on an 8 with a range of 15. The target enemy unit suffers D3 plus 3, strength 5 hits with AP 1. Once these hits have been resolved, the unit must give ground. So D3 plus 3, strength 5 hits, minimum 4, maximum 6, strength 5 is great, AP 1. Yes, boss.
Positive. So just to go back, because I knew there was something about low linear obstacles. It's actually pretty good. So if a unit that charges an enemy behind a defended obstacle makes a disordered charge, which means they do not get initiative bonuses.
Disordered. Yeah, for the no initiative bonuses for the charge. It's pretty big.
So that is a so again, that is a key stat. Anything that's impacting initiative. Elementalism, if I knew which button I had that was a positive sound, I might give you one. But so yeah, that actually is pretty good. So if, again, you have a unit that you know is about to eat it, that is a pretty good 1-round buff defending the low linear obstacle.
I think yes. I think this situation where it's like, what, am I always eating it? What's the but army construction is important there. D3 plus 5. D3 plus 3, strength 5 hits, AP 1. And must give ground. Obviously, if you were to stack this up, obviously with Rust, so now we're getting AP 3 in there, which is pretty interesting. And there's strength 5 hits, so these are pretty consistent. This is genuinely a threat to, like, your more monstrous cavalry, monstrous infantry, starting to cause them to be a little bit more uncomfortable. But it isn't a huge amount of, it isn't a lot.
It's not a lot. But it's a decent magic missile. Would have loved this. Would be a great signature. because it's random, I'm not swapping it out. At least, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And then finally, number 6, travel the mystical pathway is a conveyance spell cast on a 10 with a range of 9 inches. If the target friendly unit is not fleeing and has not already moved, during this movement phase, you may immediately remove it from the battlefield and replace it anywhere within 12 inches of its original location, but not within 12 inches of any 6 inches of any models. The target friendly unit cannot move again during the movement phase. So it's only
good.
It's good. It's really, really good.
That's good.
That's good. Move a unit out of the way if it's about to get charged. This feels like wood elves are generally going to love this spell lore. And like on the surface, doesn't seem strong, but once you start putting it all together, you think actually it's going to be very disruptive as a spell lore.
So I mean, much beyond anything like a small unit or wood elves or whatever. Think of like any powerful unit. Again, because you have very limited ability to efficiently change your facing, or like basically being able to move something 12 inches and make a left turn so that you're in a flank or a rear or something like that, or like take yourself out of a line of arc. Line of arc. Like basically someone's ability to see you, to charge you. Being able to pick up and plop down a unit. That's very, very powerful, I would say. This, to me, feels like it kind of saves Elementalism a bit for me. This is the spell I want for sure.
For me, this kind of like ties it up in a bow, right? This makes me feel like, right, okay, I see what the spell lore is geared towards, who it's geared towards as well. Like which armies want this versus some other armies. So I think it kind of ties it up. You're like, okay, now I see all the things you're trying to make happen with this spell lore, and you're definitely giving those tools to certain armies. I think that's what we're going to see. But yeah,
the most amount of armies for like, but like something like Tomb Kings doing this, like that's pretty handy. Because they're probably the least maneuverable of all of these things. But being able to just pick up and plop down a unit. The 6, one thing though would be that 6-inch restriction might be tricky in the sense that it might be hard to find a place that you want the unit to go to that isn't within 6. But either way, that is the only thing. That is the first spell out of this that made me think Elementalism. If I had to take it, which I pretty much never have to take it, I would at least be a little intrigued.
I like the idea of putting because it's done in the movement phase, so just before the shooting phase starts. If I'm right, then there's the opportunity. Does it count as move during the movement phase? You may immediately remove from the battlefield. The target friendly unit cannot move again during the movement phase, so it counts as a move. Okay, so then I'm not going to do it with a cannon or something. Which is a bit of a shame, but I might do it with a shooting unit that previously couldn't draw line of sight to something, then move it around, so now it can draw line of sight to a unit, which I think is interesting. Yep. Or even just, you screen off a shooting unit, so in case it does get charged, you're like, haha, that unit's never going to be able to see me to shoot, and then you're like, boop, it's to the side of the unit defending it now. You're like, oh, yikes.
Also, something to consider, like if it's anywhere within 12 inches, like remember, like if you're moving a big brick of infantry, to me that means that the corner, that's basically the closest part of that unit, just has to be a corner of it needs to touch that 12 inches. So if your unit's like 8 inches wide, which isn't absurd, like that actually is, you're getting a model pretty far down range.
Yeah, you can do some really crafty stuff with the fact none of this is wholly within, and it's just within. That gives it a lot. Or even just the rear, the back end of a unit. Say you have a longish unit of heavy cavalry, just need to be 4 wide. Maybe like that's 120 millimeters deep if it's 2 ranks of horses. That's actually getting you significantly more than 12 inches actually. So again, this to me is probably the most useful spell. Range 9 inches. Makes it tricky because you're probably going to, it's hard to be very far away from the thing that you're moving to try and prevent being dispelled and things. But I don't know. I like that spell a lot. I agree. Okay. So what do you think overall for Elementalism? A bit interesting, very specific, I think.
I find it generally, because it's the most available one across the board. So Empire, Bretonnia, Wood Elves, High Elves, Orcs, Goblins, Beastmen, Tomb Kings. I feel like as a result of that, it actually will get used the least. Unless you have a very specific thing that you want to do. But again, any of these is a big risk because you may or may, if you have a lore that has a lot of stinkers like that one did, there's a good chance you just wind up with a lot of bullshit, and you probably have better options, I would bet. So Elementalism, so far my leader for lamest.
Oh, interesting. Okay, next
Which
up.
is ableist. I'm not supposed to say lame anymore. It's ableist, squarebast.
Squarebast, hashtag squarebast. Next up, high magic. So for only the wood elves and the high elves, everyone else take a backseat, have a sit. Okay.
Lizardmen, and maybe dark elves should get high magic. So we'll see.
Yeah, lizardmen I think should get it. Okay, so hex, value of 9. This is the signature spell. It's called Drain Magic. Remains in play. Big yikes. Whilst this spell is in play, enemy wizards that are within 24 inches of the caster's model when they're attempting to cast a spell must increase the spell's casting value by 2.
Strong.
Absolutely dominant. Because what's nice is, again, if we go back to spell generation, I'm playing against, I'm playing against dwarfs. I don't care about this. I don't ever change the signature spell. Oh, you've brought a Tzeentch gun line. Hello, signature spell, right? That's what I'm going to do. 24 inches is massive. Range remains in play, so your opponent can get rid of it, but this is a problem spell for a lot of different people.
So, I mean, if you think about it this way too, that basically takes you, like, if it's a 4-on-4, like a level 4 versus a level 4 casting something, that takes it from a better than 50% chance, like 55% chance or so that a given spell goes off, down to a 30% chance that a given spell goes off, because there's that 2 levels or approximately that much. Like, it's about a 20% drop in effectiveness, assuming that you have the same casting ability against the person you're going against. This is a very good defensive spell against magic.
Well, I mean, it only pushes the casting value up, right? So it doesn't innately, and that also means that you're pushing up so I need to add +2 to cast, but you need to add +3 now to your dispel on the spells. So, there's a little bit of a conversation there. So, again, if I was just as an example, because it's in my head, if I'm playing warriors and I've got +2 to cast on a level 4, then, I'm a level 6 versus your level 4, but, I've only got to add +1 to my casts. You've got to add +3.
Is there a material, this might just be my smooth brain here, but is there a material difference between being -2 to cast or having a casting value that's 2 higher?
Yes. So the spell's casting value is, if we just, for instance, on Drain Magic, the casting value of the spell is 9. So it would now be, you would now need to cast that spell on an 11. Not versus, because in order to successfully cast it, I need to roll an 11. If I do, you're going to still need to roll a 12 to dispel it. So it does push the casting value up, so it makes it harder, but it doesn't give any more natural advantage to the dispeller. In fact, I think it's fair to argue that it's probably, if you then start successfully proccing those big casts, it's probably going to be harder for your opponent to do it, right? To pop that. So it's kind of interesting.
I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like, because, I guess once it's cast, sure. It's making the likelihood of the thing being cast in the first place lower, and then it obviously harder to dispel if it does go off, because it'll be a higher casting amount. But what I'm saying is that, in the casting, a casting value of 9+, and if you're a level 4, really is a casting value of 5, right? And then if you're adding 2 to it, now your casting value is 7. You know what I'm saying?
What, for dispellers? Sorry.
So no, just as a matter of principle, the casting value of 9+ is, and then when I roll my dice, I add my wizard level, right?
Yeah.
So effectively, for 2d6 math purposes, you just add those modifiers to get your target number. So if the casting value is 9+ and I'm a level 4 wizard, I just need a 5.
Yeah.
Right. But now I actually need a 7. So that's the equivalent of me being a level 2 wizard.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
know what I'm saying?
Absolutely no argument. It does make the spell much harder to cast for everyone involved, but it also makes, if you do cast it, and again, high-level wizards are more effective. So this is obviously like a real big problem to like a level 1, level 2 spam list. But is like if you have a dominant level 4 or a couple of level 4s, then I think that you're probably going to be in an okay position, other than some of the higher spells, because you're still rolling big. You're adding +4. Yeah, sure. Like it's going to be much harder. It does change the math a lot, and it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Like it's not a bad spell by any stretch of imagination, but it's not like this ends magic initially.
I just think I think that it's. Oh, wait a minute. Can you go back for a sec?
Sure. Where to what?
Just going back. Oh, my toddler's been levels. Effectively.
Yes.
And I don't see why. Yeah.
Because what I'm saying is if you're specking into a good caster, like for example, if I'm just taking any old wizard, then whatever. But most wizards can either get +1 to cast or know an extra spell from their lore, stuff like that. Some can get multiple pluses to cast. So if you're building into like I want a dominant caster, then I don't think this is not as effective as being into a series of multiple low casters, at which it's devastating as an effect. So there's just that. It's a great spell. I think that's what we can cover. It's a great spell, and situationally, and as a signature spell into that situation is perfect. Like effectively, it's shutting down magic gun lines, and that's wonderful. Love that. Okay, so our first spell, a high magic, is a conveyance spell. It's number 1. It's Walk Between Worlds. It's conveyance, cast on a 10, range yourself. Until the start of next turn subphase, the caster and any unit they've joined gain the ethereal, which means they can't be wounded by anything other than magical attacks, and reserve move special rules.
I'm so sorry. I have one more thing I wanted to go back to on Drain Magic.
Sure.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. It's a signature spell. You cast it multiple times. Does it stack?
It doesn't say that it doesn't stack.
That's ruthless if that's true. That is ruthless. So now you're adding 4?
Well, yeah, if you
You're
have
adding
2,
6?
yeah, you're having 2 wizards.
It's a signature spell. You could literally everyone could have this. So I feel like it can't stack, but I'm like looking at conditions of enchantments. Bonuses from different enchantments are cumulative, but cannot take into care. I feel like it can't stack. Guys in chat, maybe correct this or not, but maybe I can do some reading. But like, if this stacks, then it's just absolutely devastating. You just destroy the magic phase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but it's only to casters within 24 inches, which I agree is most of the board, right? But yeah, we can come back to that definitely, and feel free to leave as many comments as you like about Drain Magic. Okay, so Walk Between Worlds is a 1, cast on self until start next turn subphase. The caster and any unit they've joined gain ethereal and reserve special move. Okay.
Wow.
Ethereal can only be harmed by magical attacks. Now there is quite a lot of magical attacks out there, to be fair, but there's not loads. Okay, and that's another problem spell.
Yeah, that becomes a real stat check situation, right? So because right now, I mean, without vampire counts, vampire counts traditionally are like the main source for ethereal units. With some exceptions in previous editions of the game. And because they're not front of mind right now, we're probably not thinking a lot about magical attacks and needing to have stuff to be able to deal with ethereal, because essentially you can't interact with an ethereal unit if you don't have magical attacks. Another great reason to have magic missiles. This makes a unit potentially invulnerable. That's how powerful that is in certain situations. And then on top of that, the reserve move special rule, which I believe allows you to make a move after you shoot, or like just at the end of the shooting phase.
Yeah.
So you're getting additional movement. This is very good.
Yeah. You just make yourself into a ghost, run at the enemy, and then just fight, and it's a problem. So yeah, this is again great. So far, 2 bangers, absolute bangers, only available to elves. Okay, next up, high magic. Number 2, fiery convocation is a magic missile cast on a 10. It's got a range of 18 inches, and you place the large Of course, it would not be small. 5-inch blast template, so the central hole is directly over the center of the target enemy unit. Once
Don't worry,
placed,
scatters D3+1. Don't worry.
yeah, will scatter D3+1. An enemy model whose base lies underneath it risks being hit, so 4+ to hit them, and suffers a strength 4 hit with an AP of 2, and they are flaming attacks. So,
wow, that is potent. So why suddenly normally you normally don't like templates? Well, this is a 5-inch template. That is a much bigger area. So like, I would say the 5-inch template in this game, as far as what you're able to fully cover, is probably equivalent to a 3-inch template in previous games, which covered a ton. So if a pie plate, a 5-inch pie plate on a unit is massive, and then it's strength 4 AP neg 2. This is devastating. This is, I mean, I'm not going to call it a nuke spell, but this is as close as I've seen to a nuke spell. Am I being hyperbolic?
It's very good. I do have a little question, though. It's like range 18 inches, so I hit a target within 18 inches. Does the center have to be within the 18-inch mark? Does that make sense? Because I place a large blast template so that its central hole is directly over the center. Or do I just have to clip the 18 inches, then it gets to move a little bit further into the middle?
The target is within 18 inches, and then you place the template. I would. To me, this says that. So a vortex, it specifically says that the center needs to be within the
range of the caster
distance, within that range. But this is the unit has to be within 18 inches because it's a magic missile. If it's in range, you place the template. So yeah, it's more like it's a 5-inch template. So it's more like a 23-inch range. This is
and it's AP2.
This is fire.
Yeah, this is
As someone who suffered at the hands of Fury Convocation at the Square-based GT, in which 40 halberdiers were savagely burned to death in a building, this is both triggering and awesome that it made. Like, this is savage. This is a savage offensive spell, I think.
I agree. Okay, next up is Tempest, which is a magical vortex cast on 9 with a range of 12 inches. Remains in play.
Casting values all super high so far, by the way.
Yeah.
Calling that out.
Remains in play. Place a small 3-inch blast template so that its central hole is within 12 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template does not move and is treated as dangerous terrain. Whilst within 6 inches of the template, enemy units treat open ground as difficult terrain and difficult terrain as dangerous terrain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Savage.
Again, rough.
Wow.
Shutting down the enemy, making it so they can't move, dropping rocks on them. Very good for Tempest.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and you've also made a unit immune to damage, which is fun.
Wow. Okay, high magic demonology going blow for blow here. All right, what's next?
Corporeal Unmaking is your number 4, which is an assailment spell cast on 8. A single enemy unit within the cast it is engaged with suffers D6 strength 5 hits with no armor or regeneration saves permitted. So just pretty normal. D3 strength 5 hits, though, with no armor saves. So not bad.
So the one that we saw, which was like, we swapped that out, that was like this, was I think strength 3.
Yeah.
With this is far superior. Again, probably a swap out on this one, but not the worst. Not the worst. Strength 5, with no armor or regen. Like, that's as good of AP as you can get.
It's also you're on as you pointed out earlier in the show. You're doing assailment spells at initiative, and you're an elf, so you're doing these early.
Somebody real early. Yep.
Yeah. So this is very good. Then you got the Fury of Cain, which is an enchantment cast on a 9 with a range of 12 inches. Until the end of this turn, the target for any unit gains the extra attacks +1 special rule. Ding, ding, ding. This spell may target a friendly unit engaged in combat. Yikes. There's one thing I don't want high initiative elves to have, and it's to potentially double or add 50% to their potential output. And this is it. This is good. Okay? That's good. That's good.
Oh, nanny, that's good. Good. Yeah, and again, remember we were talking about some of the demonology spells where you have +1 attack, +1 strength, and something else. Any one of those things could be a spell. Well, here you go. +1 attack is an entire spell. However, in the hands of who can field this, specifically high elves probably is the one where it's super danger. But now you're also even making, even with wood elves, even those little MSU units, now they're dishing out. If you got five person unit of Glade Guard, with one
Wild
attack each they
Riders.
get charged. Whatever it is, you're adding an attack. Woo! That's nice. That's nice.
Wild Riders, yeah.
High magic.
Wildwood Rangers. Oh boy, very good. So far, bang after bang.
Ooh, this is all. Come on, just give us one letdown. Shield of Zephyr.
Cast on a 9 with a range of 18 inches. Until the end of this turn, the target for any unit gains a 5-up ward save against wounds suffered. If this spell is cast, the effect of any other enchantment previously cast on the target unit will expire. So one unit.
You can't.
Go on.
Yeah. No, you just can't. You can't have +1 attack and defense. So you can't have defense and
Offense.
output.
No,
Yeah.
but you can be like, this unit's ethereal, you can't hurt it. This unit's going to slam into you and do a ton of attacks. And then this unit's got a 5-up ward. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, not bad indeed. Holy heck, high magic.
Helves are a nightmare. So there we go.
Helves.
High magic. Very
Looking
good.
forward to that army overview.
Woo! Problem is what I'm going to. I'll start out with. This is a problem. I started Empire with. This is fine.
That's right. It's an illusion, Robert.
Right. Okay. Until your next. So now we're doing illusion. We're on to
By the way, I
illusion.
have to tell you, Rob, I'm fighting the urge. I have a lead on a very fancy high elf army that's beautifully painted.
No, get it.
That is very well. It is recklessly expensive. Like I would have to sell like a good chunk of what I already own to pay for this.
Nah, don't do that then, because you can 3D print amazing high elves from our good friends over at Titanforge.
Indeed, our good friends over at Titanforge. However, like they're not painted like this. Holy shit. So anyway, now suddenly, what a rational conversation I've had with myself is suddenly unraveling, and that's
Because of high magic.
I'm just going to be taking photos and putting things on eBay because of high magic, which includes a whole lot of unpainted high elf stuff. Yeah.
I need to apologize to everyone for the overview videos where everyone's like, God damn it, Rob, was it collecting this army?
Do you know how many messages I've gotten of people being like, look at all the Beastmen shit I have now? I'm like, oh God, what are we doing to people? God bless. This is fun. This is fun. I'm having a good time. Everyone make terrible. No, don't do that. Unbasked. Know your limit. Play within it, everybody.
Yeah.
But
and have
also,
a good time. Be excited, though.
And have a good time. Be excited. Know your limit. Play within it. And if you need a cheaper army, Titanforge is your place. Let's go.
And also, don't forget, you can always just proxy everything and just have a good time. Okay? So just do that.
You can play this with bottle caps if you really want to, guys.
So do that. Do that. Have fun. Right, okay. Illusion. Empire, Bretonnia, Wood Elves, High Elves, Night Goblins, Tomb Kings. First signature spell is called Glittering Robe. So any wizard can drop a spell to have this. Enchantment, cast on an 8, range self. So you can do it in combat. Effects, until the start of your next turn sub-phase, enemy units suffer a -1 modifier to any rolls to hit made against the caster and any unit they have joined. If the spell is cast, the effects of any other enchantment previously cast on the affected bottle is immediately expires. So -1 to hit is particularly good if you're going into like, I don't know what else. Obviously, they can ignore all minuses, but like if they take other types of arrows, just other shooting generally is nice as well. And then in combat, -1 to hit is also nice. So
I would say actually on the fly immediately I was like, -1 to hit. There's a lot of stuff that ignores that kind of stuff in shooting, but in combat, this is a very good spell for resilience. This is a global nerf to obviously being able to hit. And can be very helpful, especially like, if you're in a situation where, you're equal on weapon skill, suddenly they're hitting on 5s. If they're already struggling to hit you, if they're hitting you on 5s already, now they're hitting you on 6s. That ain't bad.
No, it's very good. Okay,
and it's
so
a signature spell.
signature spell.
Good.
Yeah, we love that.
Biggest issue though is its range self. So that means your caster's in combat. Yep. Less likely, like it less.
Like it less. And I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Okay, Illusion, Mind Razor. This is the first spell. Cast it on. It's a magic missile. Cast on a 7, so very low, range 15. Target enemy unit must immediately take a leadership test. If the test is passed, suffer D3 plus 3 hits, each with an AP of dash. However, if this has failed, it's D3 plus 3, strength 4 hits with an AP of -3. So it's not particularly whelming. It's based on the leadership test. It's range 15. It's a low cast. So yeah, I understand that. I'm not too keen on this at the moment.
That's a big meh for me.
Okay, spell number 2 is Shimmering Dragon, which is a great name. It's a conveyance spell casting at 8, and it's a range of 12 inches. Okay, you can only target friendly characters. If the target friendly character is not fleeing and has not already moved during the movement phase, it gains the Fly 10 special rule until the end of this turn, which obviously means if you march, you're moving 20. Okay, and because characters, some of the solo characters could be, you can put a unit on the flank of an army where they were not expecting straight away, and that's going to be a real issue for your opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Fly is more this is definitely more restrictive than, for example, the High Magic Walk Between Worlds. Or no, what was the one that you could pick up and drop a unit? That's been the best one so far.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
Fly 10. I mean, it's certainly not bad. This is definitely not bad. It's very castable.
I think you're gonna be able to kit out some when we get to our Lord Out videos. Thank you. Then you're gonna be able to kit out some either not Lord, hero level characters that you're gonna be able to just punk up. So and their job is gonna be war machine hunting, being in the middle, forcing marsh tests, a bunch of different stuff, and just being able to yeet something 20 inches turn 1, and then your opponent's oh no. Even if they're turning around and they're doing a flank charge middle of the game, or a rear charge. I think this is a problem. I think when you put it on the tabletop, it's going to start to be more interesting than initially it looks, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, Fly 10, never bad. One thing though to remember is just even single entity units, like characters on big scary mounts and stuff, they don't just get to pivot anymore. Even if you're flying, as far as I know.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe flyers get to pivot?
I should look at that up. That's actually something I should look up.
That would make a big difference. If the flying unit can just if they can then turn to face whichever way they want when they land, then that makes a big difference to me. It's not bad. It's definitely not a bad one. Just we've seen maybe better.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, I agree. I think it's all interesting. So then Column of Crystal is a magical vortex cast on a 10. This is your number 3 spell with a range of 9 inches. It remains in play. Place a large 5-inch blast template so its central hole is within 9 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template does not move and is treated as impassable terrain over which no line of sight can be drawn.
I like that one. That
Column
one
of Crystal.
Maybe not quite as good as the High Magic one, but this is now something that you can place, and it's impassable. Holy shit, that's awesome! So that means
5 inches.
That it's a 5-inch wide, that you shall not pass. That's pretty cool. The danger there, though.
Can I just ask a question? If I'm right in doing my ordering correctly, I'm going to make something have Fly 10. Which means I'm going to then do my moves, and then my magic vortex is going to be cast in the shooting phase, is when it's cast. So I'm going to be able to move 10 and then do my 9-inch spell placement right in front of your army. Now, obviously, you can unbind it and some other stuff, but there's some spicy stuff there.
Yeah, one thing that actually I would use that for is you could place it and then get the hell out of the way, because you can basically make it so that you can't dispel it.
Yes, because you can't see the wizard.
Well, it's not that you can't see the wizard. That doesn't stop you from dispelling it. It's that you're not within range of the wizard. So you could well, no, because it doesn't work that way, because you convey before you would cast this. Yeah. Oh no. It doesn't work that way. I want it to work that way, but it doesn't.
Well, I mean, you can move out of that arc with the conveyance.
Well, it's more about the caster needs to be outside of 24 or 18 to prevent this thing from being dispelled. So that's the thing is although let's see, what do we have? We have it combined. Elementalism is combined. Sorry, no, we're on illusion. Empire, Bretonnia, Wood Elves, High Elves, Night Goblins, Tomb Kings. I don't know. That's having an impassable 5-inch spot. That's going to block line of sight, I would assume.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, no line. So it blocks line of sight. Can't move through it. Again, this is a real disruptive thing. And if you can get your caster out of dodge somehow, move them out of dispel range, that's just a real pain in the butt. And it also gives you something that you can maybe depend on. Really cool.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
imagine just coming up a flank, parking this in front of their war machines.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Shut them down. Like you don't have to worry about them at all, and like just like the caster's well out of range. Like that's super awesome.
Yeah, and if your wizard is a skirmisher, so obviously you do have like lots of pivots then. So then you can do your move 10, do your little pivot at the end, drop this right in front of their war machines, but like sucks to suck, baby. Like there's some interesting stuff. All right, number 4, confounding.
I see why you like vortexes. They're a lot of fun. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and your opponent does have opportunities to shut them down. I think they're probably more of a problem than they need to be, but anyway.
Again, you can stop someone from removing remains in play by just playing keep away with your caster. If it's important enough, you just make sure your caster is just not in range.
All right, so Confounding Convocation, cast on a 9, range of 9 inches. This is a hex. Remains in play. Whilst the spell is in play, the target enemy unit becomes subject to the Stupidity special rule. So this is an excellent spell, but with a very short range. It's a hex, so you won't be able to do it into combat. And so I think you're actually going to find limited uses for this. But it is a pretty... And then it's situational, the Stupidity rule anyway. So I think probably you'll drop this.
Yeah, stupidity. I mean, very good on low leadership things. It really messes them up. It's an all right. That's an all right. What else we got?
Illusion is Spectral Doppelganger, which is an assailant, cast on a 9. A single enemy unit the caster is engaged with suffers 2d6 strength 6 hits. 2d6 hits, resolved using the characteristics and special rules of the caster and any weapon that they carry. So if you were able to get a weapon that increases strength, or any special rules on that weapon. So this is a fun combo piece.
I don't know if it would apply to a weapon.
Using the characteristics and special rules of the caster and any weapon they carry.
Any weapon they carry. Sorry, got to read to the end, everybody. That's cardinal sin of Warhammer players. Don't read to the end. Interesting. That is interesting. So who has this? Empire, Bretonia. Nope. That's not going to be a crazy caster. Wood elves, high elves? No, probably not. Night goblins?
Oh, maybe high elves. High elves will have some baller magic weapons.
Well, I'm just mean like the caster themselves, right? You want them to be able to fight. Like who's got the most fighty?
Just stick them on a dragon, baby. Like Old World's answer to everything will be, you thought about putting on a dragon?
Yeah. On a dragon could do it, or a phoenix or something like that.
Phoenix is good.
Interesting. Yeah. You definitely. This is something that's the problem though. Is you'd have to invest in a combat. Basically, what I'm saying is like that would be great on Warriors of Chaos, but they're blessed by Daemonology. Doesn't matter. Like you need something that can be a combat caster, or wood elves. You put that on a tree.
You can put that on a tree, baby.
Oh, put that on a tree. All right, what's next?
So then you're going to get 2d6 hits at tree strength. Right. Anyway, right. So that last one is Illusion, a Miasmic Mirage. Until the start of your next turn. So also making a tree move 10. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Miasmic Mirage. Until the start of next turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers -2 modifier to its movement characteristic to a minimum of 1 and cannot march or charge. Huge. It's a hex range of 15. If the spell is cast, the effect of the other hex previously cast on the target immediately expires. 15 inches, cannot charge, -2 to its movement characteristic.
Casting value 11.
11.
Is that our highest casting value so far?
Well, I mean, there are not many spells where they say you cannot do a thing. And this is significant. Cannot charge is significant.
It is significant. You're probably going to want help. Definitely, you're probably going to want help casting this. But again, like if this does go off, that's never bad. That is never bad. That you're taking a unit out of the game. Definitely very good.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, definitely very good.
And again, I think this is the argument sometimes for that. Like, you just have a beefy level 4 who's just like, I'm casting at a level 4 +1, +2, whatever it might be, and now I'm really intercepting the game. Anyway, Illusion, interested spell lore, right?
I'd say it's very interesting. It's tough. Like again, sort of like dark magic after Daemonology. Illusion after high magic, when a lot of the same things have access to high magic. Again, I see illusion being But there's enough techie stuff though that it might have an argument in certain situations. I'm currently scrolling as fast as I can to find Tree Man Ancient. See if he can take
illusion.
He cannot.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there we go.
Alas.
I mean, that's why, like, yes, we got to work out exactly the characters that can do it, because some can, some can't. But then, you never know. You never know. Might get a special Tree Man Ancient who could do it. Anyway. Right, so illusion, very interesting. I agree with you, 100p. Right, we're moving into Necromancy next, and oddly available to Empire, Bretonnia, Wood Elves, High Elves, Night Goblins, and Tomb Kangs. So our first, shout out to them, our first signature spell goes out to our boys over in Australia, the Dwellers Below. It's a signature spell.
Below.
Cast on, it's an assailment. It's value 7. Place a small 3-inch blast template, so its central hole is directly over the center of a unit the caster is engaged in combat with. Once placed, the template will scatter D3 plus 1 inches. Any enemy model whose base lies underneath the template risks being hit with a single strength 3 hit with an AP of dash. So it's important.
Might be the worst signature spell in the game.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think we can skip that immediately. You're in combat. Your wizard's in danger. Yeah, it's
lame. It's a scattering 3-inch template. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Necromancy, let's do something better than that. Let's go. What's next?
Deathly Cabal is next, which is an enchantment cast on a 10, and it's range self, so it can be done in combat. Till your next start of turn subphase, the caster and enemy unit they have joined gain a 6-up ward save against any wounds suffered that were caused by non-magical enemy attacks. In addition, whilst this spell is in play, the affected model gain the Fear special rule. If they already have Fear special rule, then they instead gain the Terror special rule. So it's cast on a 10. Yeah, I like it. Like, I actually like it. Like, also gaining terror means they won't suffer against terror. Positive.
More importantly, they gain terror, so that gives you a -1 leadership buff in a lot of scenarios in combat.
And then +1 to combat res, effectively.
Yeah. Well, it also just makes them more likely to break and flee, right?
But again, it's on a wizard in, like, you know, like on self. So that wizard's either in combat with the brick. That's a problem. But again, little characters. I think there's real opportunity for little mounted characters to be doing stuff, because you could put them. You could put a character on. I think demigryphs cause fear, so that means you'd pump that up to be causing terror. Which is interesting. So there is some really interesting little combos which don't immediately like jump out as, like, you know, a Nurgle dragon, and then but yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's important to because I haven't gone in depth on character rules. I'm curious to see how well you can protect characters in combat, because again, positioning in the rank used to make a big difference. And if and if that's still a thing, then having characters super wide and out, in the sort of supporting attack range might make it so that wizards in combat aren't entirely vulnerable. So it might not be as bad as like having a wizard in combat may not be quite as bad as we think it might be, but ultimately, you're danger close.
Which is bad. Necromancy number 2 is Unquiet Spirits, which is a magic missile cast on the low of 8 and the range of 15 inches. The target enemy unit suffers 3d6 strength 2 hits with no armor saves permitted. Ward and regens are allowed as possible. So this is fine.
I mean, that's more than fine. That's
like
pretty.
This?
I think that's pretty good, because that's basically what 3d6 is
11,
7, maybe 11 on average.
Mm-hmm.
Strength 2, let's assume you're shooting that at like a big old unit of toughness 3. So you're getting a third of that. Was that 4-ish wounds? No saves.
Not bad.
That's not bad.
And it's also cast low. It's cast, like you were saying earlier, it's cast only on an 8. So if you want, you can spam that bad boy. You can take a couple of level 2s, just keep throwing out. It's not a signature, so you might not get it. That's true.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Spiritual Vortex. It's a magical vortex, Val, cast on an 11. Ooh.
Here we go.
It's range 12 inches. Remains in play. Place the large 5-inch blast template so that its central hole is within 12 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template does not move. It is treated as dangerous terrain. Whilst within 8 inches of the template, enemy unit suffers -1 modifier to their leadership characteristic to a minimum of 2 and cannot use their general's inspiring presence special rule.
That's pretty. That might make this whole lore That is very good.
Very good.
Very, very good. Casting a value 11 though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very good.
There's such an economy as you get higher up for dispelling being harder.
True.
Actually, yeah. Anyway, we could talk about that forever.
On our magic math table, actually, it actually favors the dispel. Because the harder the dispel gets to cast, the less likely it is that it's cast in the first place. So therefore you wind up with. And then they still have a chance to dispel even though it's a higher number. So if you look at the sort of level 4 versus level 4, as you get into the very high, like the 11, I think is actually a 40% chance of getting off against another level 4.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll come back to that because actually I don't know if I agree with that. Like I need to go do that math because I think
It's just math, baby.
I know, yeah, but I don't know if the math is right. That's what I mean. So I'm gonna go check that. Yeah, I know. Right, okay. Anyway, we'll come back to that later. But this is good. -1 modifier if you're doing charging with a terror unit.
I'm sorry, I was stunned there. Big Jables, call out, Big Jables. You hear that? He's got to check the math.
The difference is the fact that you have to beat the cast. That's the point.
I'm saying, like, when you factor in the difficulty, so actually we have level 4 versus level 4 on a casting value of 11 is a 44.8% chance of going off, factoring for the dispel.
If the math is right.
The math is right.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I've never met this guy, and he just offered me a spreadsheet in Patreon.
I spoke to him for 20 minutes yesterday. So
obviously it's correct.
All right. Okay. Both of you are right. Okay. Perfect. That's what we like. Now let's move on. Right, and then let's just talk about the fact it's a great spell. Because
very good spell.
Other minuses to leadership are very significant, but most importantly, not being able to use the general's inspiring presence is going to be a real problem.
So it's a 5-inch template, so that's a 17-inch area of radius.
Yeah. Also, you cast from 12 inches away. And then obviously that means the center is within 12, but then that means you add 2.5 inches and then 12 inches from that point. So you're going to be, so even though you cast it, so wait, what is that? 12, 24, and then, wait, no, it's 8-inch range, isn't it? It's
12-inch range.
No, whilst within 8 inches of the template, these units. So you set it up within 12. So this means 20, 22.5. So you're going to be affecting a unit that straight line ahead of you is 22.5 inches away. It's pretty good. It's pretty good effective range, even though you're like, oh, I'm only casting it within 12 inches. Like, no. You're going to be affecting quite a lot of that board. So anyway, that one's good. Number 4, Curse of Years. It's a hex cast on a 10 with a range of 15 inches. Until the start of your next turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers -1 modifier to its movement, weapon skill, and toughness characteristic to a minimum of 1. If the spell is cast, the effect of any other hex is gone and expires. So -1 movement, weapon skill, and toughness. Toughness is the one I care about most, but all good. A triple nerf.
Yeah, triple nerf is definitely never bad. Another high casting value on this one. Decent range, 15 inches. I like it. Yeah, minuses to toughness, always very, very good. And then also, so this is debuffing again their resiliency and their output because you're harming the weapon skill. A weapon skill nerf is not nearly as good as a straight neg to hit. But nonetheless, I'll take it. I think, yeah, that's good. I'm not trading that one out.
Good. I'm not trading that one out either. Spectral Steed is a conveyance spell, number 5 on the chart, range of 12. Remains in play. This spell can only target friendly characters whose troop type is infantry. Whilst this spell is in play, the target friendly character gains the ethereal and fly special rule. So you can have an infantry character. This is going to be a problem for some certain units. I like this a lot. I think it's very cool. And there's I would like to just take this spell, take it out, and just start comboing with units in the game because all of this is fun.
I think the infantry limiter is limiting because if you have a single model unit, you probably want it on something that's juicing its wounds and toughness, like most monstrous mounts do.
But then think of it as like cheap, like an eagle.
Yeah, I mean, it's again not bad. It's lovely that it remains in play. That's cool. So they got to remember or get around to dispelling it when you also have a giant swirling vortex over there that's causing them issues. The cool thing about this too is, again, that gives you the opportunity to place that vortex and then move. I think this is particularly useful for the caster themselves, and being able to protect themselves. So I think, yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
I love the command spells. They're cool.
They're cool. They're very cool. And then Necromancy, Spirit Leech, number 6, is a hex spell with a range of 18 inches, casting value of 8. Until the end of this turn, the target enemy unit suffers a -2 to its leadership vow. Sorry, did we talk about a combo? To a minimum of 2, and cannot use their general's Inspiring Presence special rule. This spell may target an enemy unit engaged in combat. Did I just say -3 to your leadership?
Is it -3 or is it -4?
It's -2 from Spirit Leech, and it's -1 from Spiritual Vortex.
Yeah, okay, so -3. That's wild. That's very good. And then you get a Terror Causing unit in combat somewhere too, -4. Like, that is a recipe to break and cause people to flee. 18-inch range, very good chance you're nowhere near being dispelled.
Yeah.
Cast into combat, you got to potentially, your caster's on a Spectral Seed, just galloping around, causing mayhem. Necromancy.
Really good, huh? Really
Very
good.
handy. This appeals to my combo brain. Of course, the high casting values of all of this stuff screams like you need a level 4 for Necromancy, though. You need a big bad guy.
Yeah, you need to juice them up, but I mean that's not bad either. Like very interesting. I think I think minus to leaderships feel so strong because of where they're utilized. Obviously terror and other stuff, but most importantly, and cutting out Inspiring Presence. Some armies are going to hate
wild.
that. Some bit armies.
Just going to say this right now: Night Goblins can take Necromancy. I'm going to be doing that against Dickie on Friday. Let's go.
Right, okay.
But maybe not, because here's Waaagh magic. Let's go.
So here's our final spell law: Waaagh magic. Waaagh.
Waaagh, you're not a Waaagh guy, are you? It's Waaagh. It's a glottal. It's a glottal.
It's a silent G, I thought.
Yeah, I know. You said Waaagh.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke.
Oh, sorry. I jumped all over you. I'm very sensitive to people.
Well, no, it's also if you ever want some YouTube comments, just pronounce everything wrong. That's what I learned in my career.
We get genuine. We don't have to engagement bait. We get genuine love and support from our commenters, especially the ones who survived to the end of this.
I know, right? Okay, so Waaagh magic, our signature spell. Is the Fist of Gork or Mork, and it's an assailment spell cast on a 9. Place a large 5-inch Blast Templar so its central holds directly over the center of the unit the caster is engaged in combat with. Once placed, the template will scatter D3+1. Any model, friend or foe, whose base lies underneath it suffers a Strength 4 hit with an AP of 1. Now, I agree with you. You're wizards in combat, and it might scatter onto your own army. But also, we're playing orcs, so I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah, this is sorry. I was like, oh, that's hot until I realized it was an assailment spell. I mean, hey, you gotta. If you're an orc, you just gotta go for it. You just gotta send it sometimes. This could go horribly wrong quite easily, especially since it's a 5-inch blast template, and it's going on average 3 inches. Like, that could cover a good little slice of your own unit very easily. And also, actually, just by default, like, assuming, because you have to center it over the unit, like, from go, you're hitting your own unit in the vast majority of situations. Like, if you're fighting a unit that's very wide and not very deep, like, you're just immediately killing yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I'm in. That's all I'm going to say. I'm playing orcs, so I'm in. I'm playing goblins. I'm even more in.
I will say that both orcs and goblins have much better signature spells available to them in their armies.
Yeah. It's true.
So they're probably going to go with one of them.
So the first of the Waaagh magic, number 1, Vindictive Glare, is a magic missile with a range of 21 inches and is only cast on an 8. The target enemy unit suffers a Strength 7 hit with multiple wounds D3 special rule, and no armor saves permitted. This spell may target an enemy engaged with combat. Stunning spell.
So yeah, like that's just punking a high value elite cavalry, an ogre, Like I can think of like this one Grail Knight just eating it.
But you gotta have some cheap gobbo casters, right? And I'm just like, cool. What if I just Vindictive Glare a lot?
Yeah.
Right. Although it's not the signature, so will you get it?
Yeah, it's not. You're unlikely to get it, but even still, I mean, this is, even though it's like, oh, who cares? If they have a single elite, like a real elite, like those 40 point per model cavalry things, Dragon Princes, Blood Dragons, I'm sure, Grail Knights, any of those type of things that are single wound, you're just literally punking one for what, an 8, like a 8 on an 8+. Yeah, that's great. That is a good trade.
All right, so then next up, Hand of Gork or Mork is a Conveyance spell cast on 7 with a range of 18 inches. The spell can only target friendly characters, but may target characters engaged in combat. You may immediately remove the target friendly character from the battlefield and replace it anywhere within 2d6 inches of its original location, but not within 3 inches of enemy models. However, if a 1 is rolled, the character lands badly and loses a single wound. So situational move and a situational distance, but you can cast it from quite far. I think this is fine and a nice option, but I'm not rolling into the spell lore to get it.
And also, like, Hand of Mork was the shit. Like, it's like it has been a dominant spell for generations. And now it's a spell that lets you take an orc character out of combat. What? That's bullshit. Hand of Mork should allow you to put a friendly character into combat. Not within 3 inches of any enemy models. As companions, you can't charge after, and you can hurt yourself. Lame. So you're allowed to move them 7 inches. Like, this is useful, I'd say, to a caster in danger. Like, that's basically it. Moving like to get the caster themselves out of danger. And yeah, maybe if you want to be super un-orc man, you could use it to get a character out of danger you don't want to die. Maybe I'm missing something. At least it's very easy to cast.
Number three. Bad Moon Risen.
Risen. Risen. I get it.
I'm saying Riz for the kids. Yeah.
Got Riz, yeah.
It's a hex spell. It's a hex spell cast on a 10 with a range of 15 inches. And then until the end of this turn, the target enemy unit suffers minus D3 modifier to its weapon skill and initiative characteristic to a minimum of 1. It's cast on a 10, right? Let's go.
That's interesting because there is a signature that I want to say the goblins have that is almost identical to this, which means they could stack those. That's wild.
Stunning is what that is.
That's very good. That's very good.
Very good. Because, and for people who are like, why? Weapon skill, being able to hit your opponent or be hit is determined by weapon skill. So there are minuses to hit, which are always globally better. Because you don't need a stat change because sometimes stat changes won't actually affect the minus to hit or plus to hit, but so those are always better. But minus D3 to the weapon skill means they're hitting you worse, but also they're being hit better. So it's like it's a 2-pronged swing. All swings are 2 prongs, Rob. Anyway, number 4 is evil.
I also would say I poo-pooed earlier a -1 weapon skill.
Yeah.
And that's because like a -1 is maybe not making a huge difference, but a -3 could make a very, very big difference. So yeah, that's a big-ish deal. And I just wanted to say, Itchy Nuisance, which is the signature spell for goblins, is minus D3 toughness and initiative. Also a hex spell on a 9-inch, 9+, 15-inch range. So you could combo that to
does it have at the end you can't stack, or if there's another hex on it? Oh,
nope, nothing like that.
So -6 to an initiative characteristic.
Potentially, yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Get effed, elves.
Yeah, get ready, elves. All right, okay. Evil Sunshining is a number 4. It's an enhancement, a range of 9, and a range self. Till the start of your next turn subphase, friendly units that are within the caster's command range may re-roll any rolls to hit of a natural 1 and improve the armor characteristic of their weapons by 1. So command range is determined most of the time by the leadership value of the caster or the character that's doing it, unless it's your general, in which case it's 12 inches, and then If it's on a large target, it gets extended out to 18 inches. So that's how command range is worked out. It's actually hidden pretty aggressively inside the book.
Yes, in the general area, inspiring presence.
But +1 to your armor piercing characteristic is great. Reroll any rolls to hit roll of 1 is also good for units that are already going to be good.
I mean, the fact that this is an area of effect is
really good.
Very good.
Yeah,
very good. Because so like now you're having. Now you're just you're improving your damage output significantly on like your big blocks of gobos with spears who've got a lot of attacks because they can fight in 2 ranks. I like Evil Sun Shining.
Well, so I minus 2d3 to your weapon skill. I'm hitting you maybe now on 3s. Yeah, economies of scale. We said it. That's what we said. Now I'm re-rolling 1s. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing some stuff.
That's muy bene. I like that a lot.
Okay. Then Waaagh, here we go, is an enhancement cast on a 9 and range itself.
Sorry. Can one thing though to note about that combo is that's only working for 1 turn.
Yeah.
Because you can't cast it into combat, I think is one thing. Although because it's an area of effect. So the second one.
So Evil Sun Shining is range self, so you are going to be able to do that. It's going to be permanent even if you're in combat.
And you don't have to be at it because it's anyone in an area of effect.
Yeah,
I was thinking of the one above that comboed with the goblin signature spell. Was just that like I think they're enchantments and hexes. So they're hexes that you can't cast in combat. So you kind of have to do it, and you get it for 1 turn.
Yeah. I agreed. Enhancement, here we go. Range self, so it could be done in combat. Any friendly unit that's within the caster's command range during the declared charges and charge reaction subphase of this turn increases its maximum possible charge range by 3 inches. And when it makes a charge roll, may apply plus D3 modifier to the result. So absolutely huge.
That's very good.
Very good.
That's very good. I'm liking these. This is the only lore with a significant like 2 area of effect spells. That's really good.
Really good, and obviously works how the army wants to work as well. Wants to be charging, counter charging, and then you finally got Foot of Gork. It's a magical vortex, cast on an 8, range of 15 inches. It remains in play, and you place a large 5-inch blast template, so it centrals within 15 inches of the caster. While it's in play, the template is treated as dangerous terrain. The template moves 2d6, so some real wild shit, in a random direction during every start of turn subphase. Any unit, friend or foe, the template touches suffers d3 plus 3, strength 5 hits with an AP of 1. Bananas stuff. Why is it only cast on an 8?
Yeah. That's a very good point. You could easily, it's not unlikely if you went with multiple low-level casters for these guys, which is not an unlikely situation, that you could have a couple of these things stomping around.
No, stop. You're not thinking it through. Let's start an army list right now. We take as many wizards as we can take, right? We try to get this spell as many times as we can get it. Then we just spaff it all turn 1. And then we say to our opponent, welcome to the Waaagh, bitch. Right? And then they're like, why are there 8 5-inch templates on the board that are moving 2d6? Yeah. Random direction isn't great either. No, obviously. They're coming back. But they might go forward.
These are essentially magical vortex fanatics is what they are.
Yeah. This feels like a guy that sets his fists on fire before he fights.
Yeah, let me see. Fanatics. Oh, Jesus. Just tell me the rule. Where is it? Fanatics have a page of rules. 2d6, random move. What happens? Sorry. It's D6. Yeah, it's better. Well, no, the AP is stronger on a fanatic. So it's D6 strength 5 hits with an AP of 3 if you get contacted by a fanatic. Yeah. Yeah,
very good. Okay, you're gonna have a great time.
Gonna be a good time. Waaagh magic. I don't have no complaints.
No complaints. That is all the spells, and we did that in a timely 3 hours. We smashed that.
Well, we had
effective
a couple
and
breaks.
efficient. Oh,
It'll be
well, no,
under
that's
3
the
hours.
no, that's the recorded time.
Okay, 3 hours. Great. Good
Smashed
stuff.
it. Good stuff. And so this is the first of our deep dives, which I think was good.
Listen, J Barry SF. D3 plus 3 is greater than D6. Yes, but it has less AP, was the comment I made. Thank you very much. Sheesh.
Now, listen, if you have watched all the way to the end of this on the YouTubes and you've enjoyed it, then please do obviously like and subscribe because we're trying to get to 10,000. This is my goal now, 10,000 subscribers ASAP. And thank you to everyone on the both the Honest Wargamer Patreon and also the Squarebase Patreon for supporting the show, which has been great. Val, overall, are you more excited about Magic now?
Yeah. I'm more excited about the game. Like this, again, in my quest to figure out what I'm excited to play, this made me 100% more excited about playing with Greenskins on Friday because I'm going to have a little game with old Dickie. And also really curious about like anything that can take Daemonology. I'm super curious about High Elves. Like those both, like Warriors of Chaos and High Elves, womp womp, are apparently going to be good. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, no, because I guess I could play Warriors of Chaos against Sticky, but I did say I was going to play Greenskins, and so I'm going to bust out some Night Goblins. That makes me very
Take a
excited.
couple of Vortexes. Come on, get that 5-inch 2d6. Tell some stories.
Well, even if we're playing with the working rules for based comp, where we limit non-core choices to 3, you can still get 6 Night Goblin casters out of that. You know, so that's not so bad.
That's not bad.
And then a couple of those guys could be bombing around with Necromancy, which also has some really nasty things in it. So yeah, that's cool. I mean, Magic for me is always one of my favorite things because, although I don't have the emotional maturity to deal with things not working that I really want to work, the opportunity for combos, like what could be possible in your imagination, whether or not it's a good idea, is just huge, right? So like I absolutely love that about Magic. Like thinking about all the different ways you can change the game state, you can get different advantages. So it's really, really, really fun. So that was a really great deep dive. And everyone in chat should know, and everyone listening, I've been very reluctant to do deep dives. But I feel like I wasn't a complete dum-dum there.
I think you did great.
I think
you did great. You've been very nervous about doing a deep dive because they are stressful. And even at this stage, I mean, the rules have been knocking around for a week and a half or whatever they are. Like, this is still such an amazingly complex thing to kind of talk about. And it's all fascinating, and it's all going to change up when we get stuff on the tabletop as well. Many of these conversations have been that, so it's all interesting. And I think because building your armies, for example, there are many people who are going to be sat there, clipping bases, adding stuff to bases, whatever it is, and they're like, right, I really want to play, but my army's not ready. Stuff like this, I think, is going to be really helpful. Prep, because once you can start running, you don't want nothing holding you back. So like this is the mental prep that we need.
Yeah, and I think also like so much of Warhammer is played in your mind's eye is about like. Not everyone is able to crush reps, every night, even if it's just on TTS or whatever. Listening to some guys talking about how many games they're playing already. It's like, fuck, I couldn't do that if I wanted to. So like a lot of the times you're just going to be, mulling things and thinking about it and taking a little time to listen to two guys stumble their way through all of these deep lores. Hopefully it was a bit of value for you all. And it was certainly a big value for me. I can't wait to do this. I don't know, throw this out there. Maybe next week we do the second half of the core rule book, big takeaways, because there's lots of things like unit formations, characters, and then magic items can maybe be another deep dive later in the week. Something like that.
I'd love to. There's loads of stuff. There's magic items. The game is literally, I cannot make enough videos. Me and Val cannot make enough videos, let alone even starting to play games, let alone even building armies. So it's all very exciting. So I hope you've enjoyed it. My appreciation and love to Val for a great show. Super fun. Thank you to the chat for sticking with us for the day. And I hope everyone hope everyone had a wonderful time. If you did enjoy the show, then obviously like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. That's what you could do. And loads of love. See you soon.